Okay. Good afternoon. This is Anita Casey at the State Bar, and I want to welcome everyone to the May webinar. We've been having so many COVID webinars, but this is a real, legitimate, non-COVID related webinar, so glad that everybody is having a chance for something a little bit different. Our presenter this afternoon is Sean Carter, and he will be presenting the 2020 Ethy Awards. This webinar is worth 3 CLE credit hours, and it is in law office ethics. I want to keep reiterating because we get a lot of questions. There are 4 special areas. One is ethics. The other 3 are law office management, attorney well-being, and the elimination of bias. So you need 3 hours in one of those 4 special areas. Today in ethics, we'll take care of one entire credit that you would need. During this this webinar is being videotaped for later viewing. We will have it available on the website after Mr. Carter has a chance to go through it. I would imagine about another week or week and a half before it will be available on the website. Please check our website for probably now, I bet we have right at, if not over 24 hours of free CLE. So if you have anyone who needs hours, send them to the website. There is no excuse not to have them completed this year because everything is free. During the course of the presentation, if you have a question, please submit it by emailing the question in question format to me. My email is CASEYA@wvbar.org. Again, that is casey@westvirginiabar.org. Please be sure that your question is in a question format. I will take an opportunity after I receive 1 or 2 questions to interrupt Mr. Carter and pose the question to him, and he will respond to you on the video. The last thing that I want to let people know is that you will receive, after the webinar, an email from the State Bar. It may be today, it may be this week. You will need to accept the credits that are shown. If you do not act on that email, it will not go on your transcript. So be sure that you click on the email, you accept the credit hours. If you are going to be joining us late, unfortunately, I'll try not to repeat this again, but if you have to step away and you need to adjust your hours from something from 3 to 2.5 or 2 or whatever it may be, please be sure you do that before you accept the credit. And the very last thing is for this webinar is approved only in the state of West Virginia. Our webinars are for our West Virginia attorneys for West Virginia credit. If you are seeking credit in another state, you will need to comply with the requirements of that state. And unfortunately, given our financial and our staff resources, which are both very limited, the State Bar staff will not be able to complete forms or pay any fees associated with seeking credit in another state. That will be your responsibility. So with nothing further on the administrative angle, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Sean Carter. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is one of my favorite programs to do. Probably my favorite program because this program allowed me to retire a few years ago as a legal humorist. My job is normally, and I would have been with you this year in April for your annual meeting, is to give these presentations live. And when I do that, invariably people invite me back, of course, and year after year, I would have to come up with all new jokes and stories, and this program allowed me to stop doing that. I came up with this format a few years ago, and since then, I have not had to come up with new jokes and stories, because what I do is I simply spend a year looking up and researching the really dumb things you do. And then I come and tell you about them, and people give me money. So it's been great for me, and this should be great for you. The program here, we're going to go through the best of the worst of ethics violations of the last year. Now, understand that we're going to go through some outrageous cases, and you're going to be tempted to think, this has nothing to do with me. I don't have to worry about this. But the danger, Will Robinson, danger. Let me explain. That the difference between these lawyers and us is often a matter of degree and not kind. And very often we're going to see that there's a little bit of them in us and us in them. And so let's go through the categories. Now, the first category here is the Outlawyer Award. We do just like the Academy Awards. We have a category, and then we have movies that represent that category. The Outlawyer Award is an award we give every year to a lawyer who forgets that a very important part of the word lawyer is the law part. Yeah, it's a really important part. And as a result, these lawyers tend to forget that you actually, as a lawyer, have to follow the law. Now, the ethics rule we're going to talk about here, and these are all out of your rules of professional responsibility or rules of professional conduct. 8.4b, a lawyer shall not commit a criminal act that reflects adversely on the lawyer's honesty, trustworthiness, or fitness as a lawyer in other respects. Now, none of the Outlawyer Award nominees have committed a major felony. You commit a major felony, the least of your problems is 8.4b. We're dealing here with lawyers who have committed more minor transgressions. But take a look here, in the commentary for your rule says in B that even minor acts of minor significance, when considered separately, can indicate indifference to legal obligation. It's important as lawyers that we not just follow the big laws, but the little ones as well. First nominee here, as you saw a minute ago, this is the movie Animal House. And I believe it's been a long time, but I think Animal House had a panty raid scene, and if not, it probably should have. And here we actually have a real life panty raid scene, sort of. What happened in this case was that we have a lawyer as a prosecutor here, and he decides one weekend that he wants to visit one of his assistant DAs. And he goes, he calls her up and says, hey, I want to come by and talk to you about this case. She says, fine. When he gets there, he's got his son with him in the car, and he says, you know what, can you do me a favor? She's outside watering the grass. He says, do me a favor, and can you watch my son out here? I just want to go in and use the bathroom. He goes into her home to, do what, nature does. And while in there, he passes by her bedroom and thinks, I think what any man in listening would think, I need to steal some of her underwear. Not all of them, but that'd be suspicious, but several pair. And he begins to steal her underwear because apparently he's never heard of, Victoria's Secret. Guys, here's the moral here. You can buy underwear anytime you want to. You can go online during this webinar if you like to and purchase all the underwear. Victoria's Secret used to keep on sale, about $5 a pair. Enjoy yourself. But what you do not do is steal your colleagues' underwear. Here's why, several reasons, but one reason is that you might be sloppy in doing so, and when you leave a pair of her underwear in the driveway. And she thinks to herself, I didn't leave my drawers out in the driveway. I think something happened here. Now, the lawyer here is guilty of a crime that is more disturbing than sadly serious. You don't get a lot of time. There's not a lot of people in prison for stealing the women's underwear. As a matter of fact, they don't even charge him with the crime. But he does get fired and is suspended indefinitely and for at least a year in Iowa. Now, being suspended indefinitely is a problem. Here's why. It's one thing if you got suspended for a year. Then after the year, you come back and hopefully we've gotten your underwear obsession down. But here, he's suspended for a year indefinitely. And then he has to come back and prove rehabilitation. That somehow he has learned that Victoria's Secret, you can get it online, and you don't have to steal your colleagues' underwear. I'm going to tell you that that's a hard thing to prove when you're 53. At 53, people are going to pretty much assume that you're pretty much ruined for life. I'm going to encourage you to, like I said, buy the underwear. All right? Don't steal your colleagues' underwear. And generally speaking, it shows though how you don't have to be charged with a crime. Remember, the rule says if you commit a criminal act, it does not necessarily need to be adjudicated. If you admit to it and say, oh yeah, I stole the panties, you're gonna have problems, all right? So let me encourage you once again, victoriassecret.com. I don't wanna see you in here next year because I will talk about you. Next nominee here is the movie The Breakup. And here we have an Illinois lawyer who is engaged in a relationship. As part of the relationship, they're really close, and they decide to try to, that they're under the, Illinois sort of civil union laws and the rules of her employer benefits, that he can have health care under his girlfriend's health care plan through her employer, as long as they're obviously in this committed relationship, and they break up. And for the next 8 years, neither one of them decides that they should probably tell the employer that they've been broken up and he's no longer entitled to these domestic partnership benefits. So for 8 years, they are paying his premium and his insurance and co-pays and all of that. And when they find out that they've been paying for this person for 8 years, they get a little mad. He is charged with, fraudulent theft of employer benefit services, maybe a little insurance fraud. That's a problem. It's also a problem because he's been suspended for 5 months from the practice of the law for not disclosing the breakup. Here's the movie Les Miserables. Here we have a California lawyer who gets disbarred for the high crime and misdemeanor, and literally misdemeanor, of eating food at the Whole Foods lunch counter without paying for it. He's grazing. And it's not his first time. He's been caught many times grazing at the bar. I think this is like his 8th time. And they warned him and they've called the police out. Obviously, the crime, I believe here, was failure to pay for services of an innkeeper. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know that was a thing in the 21st century. It's more like Les Miserables. And normally, stealing food is something that's very sympathetic. In the richest country in the history of the world, if you have to steal food, we kind of feel bad, like maybe the rest of us did something wrong. And we normally would feel that way if you'd stolen it from Walmart. But you cannot do it from Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, those high-end places, okay? Because now you look greedy. And as a result, this lawyer gets disbarred. Now, not just for looking greedy. I will give you some context here. The reason a lawyer gets disbarred is because a lawyer does everything dumb after getting caught grazing the food. He doesn't tell the bar that he's been convicted even of this minor crime. They find out because that's kind of how bars work, and they contact him. Well, they try to. They can't reach him because he hasn't bothered to leave a current address or phone number or email address on file. So they have to hire an ex-girlfriend to track him down through Facebook. And then finally they get in touch with him and he still will not answer their subpoenas and questions. And he never shows up, right? When they, for the disciplinary hearing. He does everything to get disbarred afterwards. But the important thing to remember is you got to steal the food from Walmart, maybe Kroger's, all right? But do not steal the high-end stuff. And then lastly, the perfect score. Here we have a New York lawyer who got caught in the Hollywood celebrity college cheating scandal. He wanted his baby to be able to go to the good college. His baby's not so bright. So he works with that fraudulent company, the same one Felicity Huffman and the other people had, to work it out so that they send his baby to their own special testing service because she has a disability that they get one of their doctors to certify. And so they fly her out to the special testing facility where then they write in the answers for her so that she can go to the good college. And apparently, who knew, but you can't do this. Some of you have been thinking that's going to be the answer. You're going to find another answer for the not so bright children, but that's not going to be the answer to cheat for them. And the weird thing here is I don't think this lawyer, among all the things he thought about here, thought that he would lose his ability to practice law. But that is what has happened here, right? As a result of this, it just shows that everything as a lawyer matters. And also, sometimes babies got to go to community college. That's just the way it works. Now, all these things said, the real question is, who should get the win? And there are no winners here, but who should be named the recipient of the Ethy Awards? And here's where it's going to get fun. You're going to get to participate at home. Now, win you vote to see who the Academy chose. What you're looking for is not the most outrageous case, but the one that you, as a reasonable, responsible person, are most likely to do if a few things go badly for you. It's the one that people might do. And so I want you to, the most realistic one, and the one that I likely have the best jokes for. So let's go to our first poll here, and you tell me who you think the Academy chose as the winner of the Out Lawyer Award. Was it Animal House? Are you most likely to steal your colleague's underwear? Breakup. The fact some of you chose this, I'm worried about you. I'm pray for you, all right? The breakup, that you're likely to get some benefits from the state and then say, that's none of their business. They don't need to be all up in my business. Les Miserables, that you're gonna get caught grazing, stealing food, maybe get a peach out of the bin and eat it in the store. Or Perfect Score, that that you're not bright kid. We all have one not so bright one. Is gonna need a little extra help and you're gonna cheat, try to get him into college or something like that. And I'll give you, let's say, another 15 seconds. Do, 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 do. Boom, boom, boom. All right. And as I look here, I'm very impressed. The poll results are coming in. It's amazing. You're split right between the breakup and Les Miserables, which is where the Academy was split too. And let's just call it a tie. And in the poll here, the recipient, remember there are no winners, but the recipient of the Ethy was the breakup. The one the Academy believes you're most likely to do is to keep receiving benefits that are not lawfully yours, okay? But not that are, you see here, Les Miserables just barely went out, but the winner was the breakup. This happens oftentimes, and let me explain how this happens. So often, a lawyer, we had a case last year in the Ethy Awards. A Colorado lawyer gets fired from her job, but she's a good lawyer, so she gets another job. All the while she's collecting Social Security, unemployment benefits, and decides, you know what, the unemployment people, they don't need to know my business. They all up in my Kool-Aid and don't know the flavor. So even though I have a new job, I'm not gonna tell them that I have a new job. I'm gonna keep collecting this unemployment. And so for the next 6 months, she collects unemployment, even though she has employment, and apparently you can't do that. And so she actually ends up getting disbarred for an extra $15,000 of unemployment payments. Not that she stole, she would never go in and steal them outright, but just collecting things and letting them continue writing you a check that you're not entitled to, it counts just the same. Our next award category here is Most Creative Billing. And this is a perennial category. Again, this is for lawyers who lose sight of Rule 1.5. You see in your canon here, a lawyer shall not make an agreement for, charge, or collect an unreasonable fee or an unreasonable amount for expenses. And that makes total sense, right? Sometimes lawyers seem to forget this in a number of interesting ways. First nominee here is a movie called Thanks for Sharing. Here we have an Ohio lawyer who had a fee sharing agreement with another law firm. He had worked at this law firm in the past, decided that he was going to go out and start his own firm and steal some of their clients. Obviously, that's how the circle of life goes. The law firm says, hey, you're stealing all of our clients anyway. Why don't we make a deal? We'll send you business and we'll split those fees 50-50. And this lawyer had a problem with doing the math on 50-50. So it turns out that his idea of 50-50 was more like 89-11 or 90-10, and he gets caught. He ends up getting suspended for 2 years, 18 months stay, but 2 years for basically ripping off his former employers and current, affiliated law firm. The thing I found most interesting about this case, and the thing that got my attention and makes me want to interview some people, is that how do you think they found out that his math was bad? They didn't hire an independent auditor, right, or anything like that. This lawyer's people contacted the other firm and said, my boss is ripping you off. So here's the important lesson to learn. if you're going to be a thief and dishonest, and I'm not encouraging it, but if you are, you need to at least be good to your people, because otherwise they will tell on you and you will end up being an Ethy nominee, if not a winner. Here's a movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Here is a lawyer who was doing contract work for a large firm, getting paid by the hour, doing work on various projects. And the lawyer decided that, you know what, it's easier, a lot easier to do this if you don't do the work, but just say you did. And so she's putting down a bunch of time on matters and saying, I wrote this memo, I did this, and it's fine until they are looking for the memo that you wrote, that you have hours billed on, but that they can't find. And when they try to find it, they can't find it or her because she's on vacation. See, she needed to take a vacation from all the work she wasn't doing, but it's exhausting. All right, making up and pretending to do work you didn't do. So she needed a vacation. And when they can't find her on vacation, they look through the computer files. They can't find that document or any of the other documents she says she created. And as a result, they report her to the bar, fire her. It's not going to be good for her. Important lesson to learn, once again, not encouraging it, but if you are going to lie and rip off people and tell people you're doing work that you haven't done, you can't then also go on vacation. You don't get both. Right? That's double dipping. That's bad form. Here's the movie Blockheads. And here we have a West Virginia lawyer who gets suspended for basically breaking the space-time continuum. We have one of these cases every year of a lawyer who gets caught overbilling. And the reason that we know that this lawyer was overbilling and that we know is that he billed more than 24 hours in a day. And I don't know if you know this, maybe some of you went to public school, but that's not possible. Not on the planet we happen to live on at present, and not even anywhere in this galaxy that I know about. And as a result, if you break the space-time continuum, all right, and do some, some Star Trek Deep Space Nine stuff, you're going to spend some time, maybe not at Deep Space Nine, but driving Uber. All right, what you're not going to do is continue to practice law in violation of the space-time continuum. Now, how do lawyers get caught billing more than 24 hours in a day? Normally, it's because they've been surreptitious about it for a while. You bill numerous counties. This is a court-appointed lawyer, and he's working for various counties. As you know, the county governments don't always have the most up-to-date computer systems, so it's entirely possible that they won't notice that you billed 24 hours a day as long as you don't bill it all to one county. But eventually, the counties will hire, a 13-year-old to hook up their computers one summer to that series of tubes we call the internet, and they'll begin to reconcile the time. Now, the reason we use the movie Blockheads here is that the lawyer was interesting. What the lawyer did was that he engaged in what he called block billing. All of his time, the minimum time he ever billed for anything was 0.5. So if he spent, whether it's half hour or 4 seconds, it was 0.5. So if you came to his office and you asked him, hey, what about the so-and-so matter? We'll file that on Tuesday. What about this matter? We'll file that on Wednesday. What about this matter? Oh, we're going to do that the following Thursday. That's 1.5 hours of his time, according to him. And in fairness to him, what he said was, I can't believe you guys are coming down on me now because I've been ripping you off all this time. All right? I've been doing block billing for years and you never caught it because you hadn't hired this series of teenagers to put the internet together. This is the kind of thing that's going to be interesting because block billing, certainly most of us block bill, I imagine none of you do less than 0.1 hours, right? You don't do, 0.0004. And as a result, if you were to do very aggressively 0.1s until you were over the space-time continuum, it's a problem. Block billing is something that, is certainly not, by the half hour seems a little absurd, right? Certainly by the hour would be ridiculous. This is the kind of thing, though, that in past times might have been acceptable, is going to be less and less acceptable. Here's the movie Guns. Here we have an Ohio lawyer who really liked guns. I'm talking to West Virginia, so hey, I understand. But you gotta like money a little bit more sometimes, or at least find a way to reconcile those loves. So here's what happens to this Ohio lawyer. Here's a client who owes him money, but he does not always have the money to pay him, but the client has guns, and the lawyer likes guns. And so the lawyer says, fine, just give me a Luger or, AR-15 and get, a bazooka, whatever, I don't know the gun, whatever the going rate is, and you can satisfy your bill to me that way. And that's fine, unless you have law partners. Because if you have 100 law partners, you don't get all of the gun to yourself. Just like the money, you get your percentage. So let's say you get 1% of a gun. I don't know how you use 1% of a gun. Do you just get one of the bullets, or maybe in the part of the trigger? I don't know how you split a gun 100 ways. But what I do know is what you can't do is just keep the gun and not let your partners get any part of it. You got to let them shoot somebody too, at the very least. Or maybe you need to pay your partners the cash value of the gun, put that into the pot, and then you can keep the gun. Either way, what you can't do is keep all the gun to yourself. You can't just do all the shooting yourself, people, all right? And then lastly, the world is not enough. And here we have a Massachusetts lawyer who is a partner in a large firm. Now, at the time, a couple years before, she was a non-equity partner. She's an income partner. Now, as a lowly non-equity partner, she's only making $700K. I don't know how the rest of you feel about this, but I'm gonna tell you, I can't make it on just $700,000 a year, right? You don't give me no just measly $700,000. I don't know how I'm supposed to make it and do all of this. Look at this background here. You think this is free? All right, that's $600,000 in and of itself. I can't make it on just $700,000 a year. And as a result, she wants a promotion and she gets promotion. She gets made equity partner. Now, as equity partner, it's obviously, good and bad. One of the bads is that they knock down your base salary to just $525,000. That's gonna put some struggle, right? I don't know about you, but you're gonna have to miss some meals, eat a little hamburger helper to be able to survive on just $575 a year. But there's an upside. If she's got a lot of billings, she could earn $1 million, $2 million or more. And so she wants the upside. The clients and the business isn't really coming through so much. So she decides she's going to overinflate the billings to her clients because she got to get her, you can't make it on less than $1 million. She's in Massachusetts, right? You can't make it on that kind of money. Trust me. I lived there years. You can't make it less than $1 million. And so she begins overbilling the clients. Now, in the most interesting twist here, the partners find out, and she's overbilled like $260,000. They find out and pay the clients back. Apologize, say, look, our lawyer lost her mind. We are giving your money back. We fired her, and we're so sorry. And you know what the clients did? Most of these clients, they were like, good, but we're going with her. They went with her to her new firm, all right? One of the clients offered to give the money back that had been reimbursed to them. So I know you stole this money from us, but we want you to help you set up your practice, get your computers and stuff together. Why don't you take this 50 grand? Because, we like you. Whatever you do and whatever you learn from this webinar, you need to learn to be that likable. Well, you can steal about 260 grand from people and they will like you better than the people who gave them their money back. That's good personality there, but not good ethics. Apparently you can't do that. The lawyer's been suspended for 6 months, which is kind of strange, right? It's only 6 months for a pretty clear theft here. But remember, a lot of personality. I'm sure it was supposed to be 2 or 3 years, but the hearing people met her. Like, we really like her. I don't know if most of you are that likable. I've been to West Virginia a few times. I don't think you're that likable. You might not want to steal the money. All right, just a little, tip from me. Don't steal it. That said, here are our nominees. And we're going to do a quick poll here. Remember, once again, the issue is not who are the most unreasonable lawyers, etc., but the lawyers that are doing the things that are most similar to what one of you might do. So we bring up the poll here. The winner of most creative billing. Thanks for sharing. You're most likely to be in a fee sharing agreement. and forget how to do math. You forgot to carry the 4. You stole all the money. Oh, brother, where art thou? You're just not going to do the work at all and then go on vacation to rest from not doing the work. Blockheads, block billing. You're going to overestimate your time, break the space-time continuum because you are rounding everything up to the nearest 8 hours. Guns that you are going to inadvertently cheat your partners out of their share of the money because you are keeping all of the goods for yourself. You're not sharing any of the guns with them, not even the bullets. Or the world is not enough, that it's just not going to be enough. And you might need to steal another 260 grand to get to the $1 million, because how you going to make it on just 700,000? Now that said, I'm going to give you 14 seconds to get in your votes here. 14 seconds, go. 13, 12. Excellent. All right. And I'm impressed. 43% of you, the plurality of you, went with blockheads. Just 19% of you went with the actual factual winner, and that is the world is not enough. I said, wait a minute, Sean, that's ridiculous. I wouldn't do that. I'd be happy to make that kind of money. Maybe. But here's what I've found out over the last several years as I've gotten older and as you can tell, mostly wider. The world seems to almost never be enough. Ask yourself, if one point in your life, if you made the kind of money you make now, didn't you think you'd be rich? Didn't you think you'd feel rich? How many of you feel rich? It always seems to be more, right? The world is never enough. And even if you have enough money, you don't have enough prestige. You don't have enough cachet. You don't have enough pull. We see this in firms a lot, where we have lawyers who are more than adequately compensated. Everything should be great, but they want to be number one in the practice department and in the practice group. It gives you a little cachet, a little bit more authority, a little more spring in your step. And they will overinflate billings on ridiculous numbers that are way more than enough, because the world is sometimes not enough. I mean, and we caution all of us to be careful about that. It's a great title, James Bond. You can't beat that. It's entertaining, but you want to make sure that the world can be enough. David Copperfield Award. We give this award every year to lawyers who make client funds magically disappear. Okay. Our first nominee here, and we're going to talk mostly about Rule 1.15, safekeeping property. But first nominee here is a movie called Undercover Brother. And here's an interesting case. It involves an Illinois lawyer who decides to go undercover in a sense. He is, has a mother, as apparently a lot of us do. And I have a mother, and he has a mother, and he also has a brother, which also apparently a lot of people do. But he does not think that the brother should also share in mommy's inheritance. As the son, the lawyer, maybe the favorite son, he drafts up the will and trust documents, etc. And then over the next several years, tries to convince mommy that Tommy really does not love her like he does. Tommy has never loved her like he does. Tommy calls her name sometimes. When they talk on the phone, Tommy is not a brother. He's not here with you now. He don't call. When's the last time Tommy called you? And sure enough, he's able to talk mom into believing that Tommy does not love her. And when mommy dies, Tommy says, I love mommy, at least to my purse stripes percentage. Where's my money? And he says, hey, mommy knew you didn't love her, and she wrote you out of the will. And the lawyer and the brother here, find it hard to believe, objects to the brother getting all of the estate. And as a result, he is charged with, in addition to fighting the will. He's charged with ethics violations and used his undue influence to convince mommy to give him all the money. And this has not been adjudicated yet. It's just been charged, but it's going to look bad. It's probably not going to work well. One of the conflicts of interest provisions specifically talks about this scenario in two respects. One, you see conflict of interest. All right, if your interest might, won't be word for it. Collide or be in conflict with the client's interest. The client in this case is mommy, even though mommy, I'm sure, didn't pay for the will. He did draft it. And then there's 1.8, which is not listed here, but you can look it up yourself. 1.8C, which talks specifically about the concept of you, if you draft a document, testamentary document, you cannot be the beneficiary of that document unless you actually are related to the testator. In this case, he actually is related to the testator, but using your influence to then, write your brother out the will, it's a bad look, people. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look good for any of us. I'll see you an email, let you know how it turns out for him, but I'm not guessing well. Our next nominee here is the movie Diner. And here we have an Illinois lawyer, another one, who is in a lot of trouble because of his dining habits. Now, the dining habits are not a problem. How he paid for them was a problem. He paid for his dinners by using the client's credit card. He originally got the client's credit card number because he said, hey, we need to do this filing. All right, we can do it electronically. Here, filing's $500. And he does the filing, and now he's got the credit card number, and he kind of says, hey, it's time to party all the time, party all the time, party all the time. And so he's buying all kinds of stuff on Amazon. One of the areas he gets caught is a receipt for a Boston market. Spends $109 for some chicken dinner at Boston market, which, by the way, that's too much chicken, people. All right, you go to KFC, all right, Popeyes, and they're not that expensive. All right, don't do $109. They're gonna catch you on that. It's greedy. How many two-piece do you need? Also, I'm gonna encourage you to not use the client's credit cards for anything other than a filing. And you might actually want to even do it yourself and use your credit card, and you don't want your people to get it. One of the problems we have time and again is when people get credit cards for legitimate purpose at first, they tend to get crazy. One of our nominees last year was a lawyer who took the boss's credit card and found out that Amazon sells more than toner and staplers and office supplies. It sells everything, and I mean everything. In addition to shoes and clothes, they also found out that they sell, how do I say this, adult novelty items on Amazon. And now, of course, I've lost 2/3 of you because you all on Amazon shopping. Pick up something for me while you're at it. But yeah, they sell those novelty items. And if you charge that to your boss's credit card, it is going to get back to boss. In this case, it got back because Mrs. Boss saw the credit card receipt and said, hey, can you explain this to me? Because I don't see no novelty nowhere near our bedroom, and you need to explain why you got novelty on the credit card, or you're gonna be explaining it from the Hilton, or more likely from Motel 6, because I'm taking all your money. You better talk to me. And so he talks to his employee, finds out that the employee has been stealing the credit card for the adult novelty items, and now the employee that's all he has left, because he doesn't have a job. Because if you get your boss in that kind of trouble, the point is, don't use the credit cards for personal stuff, particularly anything that personal. Here's the movie Ocean's 11. And here we have a New York lawyer who got disbarred for embezzling $11.8 million from his trust and estate clients. Now, I normally don't use these cases because they're not that interesting, but I found this interesting because it's $11.8 million. And obviously it's not one client. You steal that kind of money from one client, they're gonna notice. This is, 200 here, 200,000 here, 78,000 here. This is hundreds of clients, a little bit here, a little bit there, until eventually someone says, hey, where's my $468,000? And then it gets a little ugly for everybody. And the thing that's interesting about these cases is I'm always wondering how this happens, because it doesn't seem to me that you could think that you could get away with this. Also, who needs $11.8 million? I've been broke before. I understand you need to make ends meet, but I've never been like, oh, 2 mortgage payments short, and now I need 11.8 million. How much did you think you need to steal? This is the kind of thing where it's interesting, because it's not logical, it's not rational, but it's understandable, because things snowball. It's amazing how small things can start. He certainly didn't start out near 11 million. Right? He stole because he needed to make a mortgage payment, or a house note, wanted to maybe impress a client with a new car by showing off his new car. And then it just snowballs and snowballs, and what used to seem like a little bit didn't seem like a lot. I'm going to tell you that this is one of the scarier things, because it is a situation that it happens so often to lawyers who never thought they'd be in that position. Nobody ever imagines, right, that they're going to steal $11 million. It has to be sacrosanct with you. You're never even going to borrow, even for a day, a dollar. Even if you have to miss a mortgage payment, right? You get a car repossessed. It has to happen, because it's the rule. Here's the rule. The rule 1.15, safekeeping property, and not trust account violations. I can tell you this without a doubt. No one has ever violated the trust account provisions once. That's not humanly possible. You either never do it, or you do it every Tuesday, okay? Nobody's ever done it once and be like, okay, this solved my problems, I'm done, okay? And so this has to be a sacrosanct thing where you never cross that Rubicon, because the difference between, stealing $1,400 and $11.8 million is this close, all right? It's just time. 50-50. It's a movie 50-50, and here we have a similar case that we had earlier of this time it's an employee of a law firm. And the employee makes a deal that he will get a base salary, and he will also get 50-50 of the profits. Now, he's pretty good at math, so he's not having a math problem where he takes in, about 10,000 and forgets to give the 5,000 to the partner. Partner actually, does the math for him. The thing is that all the 10,000 doesn't get into the law firm account, because he'll take cash under the table. Literally, you hand me $50 under the table. That still is going to be an ethical violation. And the thing about it interesting here is that the lawyer got suspended in a case where I'm pretty sure the lawyer didn't think that this was that big of a deal, or that maybe he thought that people would be sympathetic to him. He was only making 18 grand based as a lawyer, okay? Not a lot of money, right? But by the way, I think Chick-fil-A pays is that too, all right? I think Chick-fil-A actually pays a little more, because actually they're a pretty good employer. They pay a little more, all right, than 18 grand. And so it's, you can understand why he felt like he was being cheated. Maybe he deserved more money. The thing he did not understand is that the people who are going to judge his fate, what is their job? By law, by day, they are law firm partners. They are the only people in America who will have sympathy for another lawyer you're stealing from, okay? Normally, you get caught stealing from a lawyer, you take that case to a jury will give you a piggyback ride out of the courthouse. They love you. You're a hero. You're Robin Hood. Right? You stole from the rich to give to the upper middle class. They love that. But doesn't work that well in this case. Works just the opposite here. If you get caught stealing from lawyers, the people who will judge your fate will be lawyers, and they won't like it at all. And lastly, rules of engagement. Here we have another Iowa case in which a lawyer had their license revoked. That's it's weird. It's kind of disbarment, but not really. In 5 years, you can apply for reinstatement, which almost never happens. Just know it's not good. The lawyer has their law license revoked, for not stealing a whole lot of money, less than the lawyer we talked about in the case before. But for $7,500 from a client, the lawyer receives the money, deposits the money into her operating account, and says, "Okay, this is my money. It's a flat fee. Whatever we have to do on this. This is the money I get, and it's all the money I get." There's some question as to whether there is a flat fee. They don't have a written fee agreement, so it's he said, she said. And what the bar said is that unless you can have that clearly, our rules of engagement are going to be not only that we're going to presume that it's a regular advance fee, which means you were supposed to deposit that money into the trust account and then withdraw it as you earned it out, but also the presumptive penalty for you stealing the money is stealing client trust funds is to be have your license revoked. Seemed like a very harsh penalty for what could be maybe even a misunderstanding. Let's take a look though at what the Academy chose. You see here, before we get to that, rule 1.15. Notice something interesting about this rule. See, normally we think of it as you can't steal the money. That's not what the rule says. The rule says you have to keep your funds separate from the client funds. It is technically possible to be punished, even disbarred, for what I call reverse embezzlement, having too much money in the client trust account. If you deposit your money in the client trust account, and this happens more often than you would imagine. Sometimes we have lawyers who have liens, judgments against them. They know that if they put money into their own account, it will be levied. And so what they'll do is they'll use the client trust account for banking and say, okay, I'll just deposit money in the client trust account. My creditors can't get to that. I'll pay my bills, my groceries, etc. And then there's an audit. And it's going to be very difficult to convince the people that you were, had legal fees at, Chili's, or even more accurately at a water park, right? Or wherever you spent money for your gas and electric bills. We had a lawyer a couple of years ago, true story, who got disbarred when he was using the client trust account funds to pay for phone sex. Now, it's his money. He deposited his money into the account. He wasn't stealing the client's money. He was, he was paying for his own phone sex. But apparently you can't use the client trust account for that. Not in the 21st century, because we have the internet. That's creepy, all right? Who's calling the phone line? Don't do that. But I want to remind you that the rules of engagement matter, and that the rule is not just stealing the money, but keeping those funds separate. That said, that little hint, let's just figure out which of these which of these nominees was the recipient, no winners, but the recipient of the David Copperfield Award, the one you're most likely to do. Is it to try to convince your mom that your siblings don't love her like you do? They never loved mommy like you do. And therefore, oops, and let me relaunch this poll for you here. They never loved her like you did. Diner, that you're gonna take the client's credit card and just start buying all kinds of stuff, food and other items. Ocean's 11, that you're gonna buy it, steal a little bit of money, borrow money. No one ever steals it. Just borrow money from the client, and then, I don't know, $11 million later, still be borrowing money from the clients. 50-50, that you know what, if your employer is not paying you like you deserve to be paid, you're gonna steal a little bit to make up the difference. You ain't gonna get cheated up in here. You're gonna get your money. You might have to steal some of it to get it, but you're gonna get your share. Or rules of engagement, that you are going to not fully follow the rules of engagement, that you're going to either deposit money that's not yours, right, in the client trust account, deposit money that is yours in the client trust account, or that you're going to deposit client money into your operating account. Either one of those is a violation. And the votes are coming in here. I'm impressed. Most of you have either gotten it or you got the hint. We're almost at 50%. We never get to 50%. This is impressive. 47%. All right, go ahead, West Virginia. 46. I'm gonna cut it off now because you're falling. 45. Cut it. But you got the right answer by plurality view. Okay. You see here, 45% of you got the right answer. Rules of engagement. That's what the Academy went with for very good reason. This is a perennial problem we have of lawyers who either are going one way or the other. They're putting their money in the client trust account or vice versa. Sometimes it's not just for nefarious reasons like trying to keep money from your creditors. Sometimes, or hide, phone sex bills from your spouse. Sometimes it's for what would be normally legitimate reasons. Let's say, for instance, the client, you take money from the client to start a matter, and you get an advance fee of $5,000, and you're earning the money out, but you don't need the money at that moment. Your operating account is flush, and so you just leave it there. Why not? Have extra money in the client trust account. And danger, Will Robinson, danger. You can be disciplined for having excess money, particularly if you decide to use your client trust account as a savings account, which could be tempting. I'm gonna tell you a little something about me. I have banked with a particular bank. They're all over America, but I've banked on this unknown bank that's all over America for many, many years now. About 20-something years, I have my home mortgage, loans, car loans, my business, lines of credit, all that stuff. Lots of business through this one bank that is in a lot of places in America. And as a result, I have status with the bank. I'm big time. And as a result, they give me an account that they probably don't give normal people. But they give it to me because I've earned it through all of this business. And the account that I have is called the hole in the bottom of the account. And let me explain to you how the hole in the bottom of the account works. My joint checking account with my wife has a feature. I don't know how it works, but I do know this. Whatever money I put in that account at the beginning of the month is all gone at the end of the month. I don't know if it's a sweep feature that on the last day of the month, I don't know, but I do know that all the money is gone at the end of the month. As a result, if I put all of our money in that account, it is all gone at the end of that month. And as a result, I don't do that. I squirrel money away elsewhere so that we aren't right on the verge of bankruptcy every month. I can do that because I don't have client trust funds. So I can keep it in my business account, just not ever take it into the hole in the bottom of the account. I can leave it in a number of other places. But what I cannot do is have it in a client trust account and then use that as a savings just because we're irresponsible otherwise. All right, so I encourage you, some of you are gonna have to, work around that hole in the bottom of the account because they didn't just give one to me, people. All right, they gave one to some of you too. Best supporting actor in a criminal activity. Some of you recognize here Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And here are lawyers who will go the extra mile for the client, sometimes the extra green mile, all right? But they're gonna make sure the client, they give the best. First nominee here is the movie Altered State. Here we have a Florida lawyer who decided to alter photographic evidence that was being introduced in the court using Photoshop. I have to confess, I'm a big fan of Photoshop. I do a lot of Photoshopping. I have fun with Photoshop. It's fun to put my face on everything. But I'm gonna encourage you to not use that in court. Even if you think you have a good reason, or you think you're being clever, it's something you would see on TV. The lawyer here is being too cute by half. What the lawyer did was, the lawyer took the defendant's picture and then put another person's head on the picture, and then was going to ask the witness, do you recognize the person in this picture, to show the witness hadn't been looking that carefully and that the witness will identify anyone wearing those clothes or whatever. I understand the point, but you cannot alter, all right, the evidence is going to be introduced in the court because you saw this on a Perry Mason or Matlock episode. And they didn't even have Photoshop and Matlock, so you were not supposed to do it. And you see here, Rule 8.4, special misconduct for a lawyer to engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. altering the photographic evidence is that. Here's a movie Witness. And here we have an indefinite suspension that's been handed down to an Ohio lawyer who decided to arrange for hush money to be paid to a witness so that that witness would not testify. What happens is there's a domestic violence incident and there's a criminal case. The victim testifies at trial that the client had, abused her, and the jury believes her. Now the defendant has been convicted. The victim comes to the defense attorney and says, "Look, I know we've gone through all this, but I don't want him to go to jail. And so, what do I have to do to keep him out of jail?" And the lawyer says, "Well, at this point, I'm not sure really what you could do. But you know what? You still have to leave a victim impact statement." And I think I may even jump the gun. Maybe they hadn't even gotten to a conviction yet, because the lawyer says what you could do is leave the jurisdiction. Just get on out of here. They can't find you. You won't be able to testify, provide the evidence at trial. Your man will be free. The problem with that is she says, "I don't have money to just go somewhere else. I can't just relocate. Where am I going to live? I'll get you the money." So the lawyer calls the defendant and says, "Hey, got good news. Think we can get you out of this. All right. Victim is willing to leave, but it's going to cost you some money. You're going to have to pay up." And so, interestingly enough, what the defendant decides is that he's going to trade up here. And what I mean by that is that he figures that he can get a better deal if he goes to the DA and explains how we have a crooked lawyer here, and that the DA might be willing to trade up and let go of his charges if he can provide evidence against the lawyer that the lawyer is witness tampering or paying hush money, right, for witnesses to disappear. And so, sure enough, the defendant begins to wiretap these conversations. And when I say wiretap, let me be clear here. This is not the 70s. Remember in the 70s, if you wanted to tap someone's wires, you had to go to the FBI, right? You had to get all taped up in the back of that van. The tape always ripped all the hair off your chest, all right, some of your skin. It was a horrible ordeal. You don't have to do that anymore because we now have these things, phones. And so all you have to do is just press the little red button, and guess what? There's evidence, right? You can do this everywhere and assume that clients are always doing this, because sure enough, the client traded up, and when it's time to make the exchange of the hush money, the police are there, and now the lawyer is facing charges in addition to being suspended indefinitely. And you see here, a lawyer shall not request a person other than the client to refrain from voluntarily giving relevant information to another party unless you see there are a couple of privileges. The person is related, all right, to the client. The lawyer reasonably believes that the person's interests will not be adversely affected, It does not say because it will help your client stay out of jail. You can't pay people and advise them to leave the jurisdiction. Here's the movie The Fugitive. Here we have a Tennessee lawyer who received a public censure for harboring a fugitive. Now, you need context here. The fugitive is her son. He is a fugitive for murder. He's been charged with murder. He finds out about the murder, and instead of, I guess, going to turn himself in, he goes home to mommy and says, "Look, I'm going to come home tonight and have one more, sleep in my own bed one more night, have pancake breakfast, and you can take me to jail in the morning." And mommy says, "Well, okay, fine. You know what? Yes, let's do it. The cocoa at night or whatever." And she gets up in the morning, cooks him a big breakfast, nice breakfast, and then she drives her baby to jail. And when she does, the police are furious. We've been looking for this guy all night. You have harbored a fugitive. And they want to charge her with, that and kidnapping a Lindbergh baby and a couple of counts in 9/11. And those counts are dropped. So look, you know what, just fine. But she has violated the ethics rules. She has engaged in conduct that's prejudicial to the administration of justice. She's harbored a fugitive for one night and fed him pancakes. And that's going to be bad. And so they give her a public censure. So if your baby comes home and they, have a murder conviction, you I don't know how to say this, but you cannot pass go. You cannot collect $200. You have to take them straight to jail. No pancakes. You can't stop at the house. Maybe the drive-through. Stop at the drive-through, but don't go in. And then lastly, pennies from heaven. Here we have an Ohio lawyer got suspended for 6 months for passing pennies to her client. And to be clear, she goes to visit a client at the jail. And she says, hey, you need anything? He says, well, I'm out of money. She says, well, I've got $7 on me. And he says, well, can you hand it under the table to me? And she was like, well, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. He said, look, if you go outside and try to get it deposited to my account, it's going to take weeks. I'm going to starve to death, right? With no access to the vending machines in that time. Come on, can you please just hand me the $7? And so she hands him the $7, and apparently you can't do that. All right, can't hand them $7 or contraband of any type, and I guess $7 is contraband. The important part to understand here is that the lawyer said gets suspended for 6 months. Now, fortunately, they stay it. The extenuating circumstances here are that it's only $7. It wasn't contraband of any type. But it is important to remember that even though it seems like a rule and a silly rule and why bother, it matters. We had a case a couple of years ago of a lawyer and her son is in jail. She goes to visit him and he says, hey, Mom, I need my Xanax. And she says, okay, I can understand why you do. You know, you keep this for panic attacks and stress, and this has to be stressful for you, baby. And I should, you know, let me go ahead and see what it takes to get you your Xanax. And that's the process. That takes time, a lot more time than this young man would like to spend waiting for his Xanax. He's got anxiety now. And so next time she comes to jail, she just kind of sneaks in the Xanax and then sneaks it to him. I don't want to know how she got that Xanax in there. I did not look. Do not ask me. I'm not telling you. I don't know. Don't want to know. I don't want to know how she got the Xanax in there or how she got it to him. But I do know you can't do that, even if it is your baby. And you just can't, rules is rules. Now, all of that said, question for you is, who is the nominee? We got 2 Harrison Fords here. We got Steve Martin. This is going to be, the Academy really, this was tough for the Academy. But, this is why they get the big bucks, to make these hard decisions. How do you think they came out? Altered states, you most likely to alter a document. Maybe not with Photoshop, but maybe, I don't know, Word, right? To maybe, change a provision in the contract from shall to shall not. Witness, that you're going to harbor, that you're going to pay witnesses to leave the jurisdiction, encourage them to, hey, you don't need to be here for this. The fugitive, that you are going to not send your baby directly to jail. You might pass go, collect $200, right? Stop at the Waffle House, eat inside. Well, not now, but before the COVID. That you are not going to immediately take your baby to jail. And then pennies from heaven, that you're going to try to, or just, violate the rules and you know what, hey, there's a small amount, you'll slip a few bucks to the client. You'll make sure that you take care of them, hook them up. You can give them the client to hook up. I'm going to give you 7 seconds. You're in good shape. So far, it looks like you're getting this right. A plurality, 40% of you have it right. I'm going to give you 4 more seconds, though. All righty. The answer is, you got it right, people. I'll show the results for you. 40% of you said the fugitive. And you're absolutely right. I shouldn't admit this, but I'm gonna admit it to you. I don't care. I don't know you people. You don't live near me. I'm probably gonna make my baby pancakes, all right, before I take him to jail. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. Don't tell anybody. I'm not taking my baby to jail. You got to come get my baby to get him in jail. All right. I'm not gonna do an OJ and AEC Cowling on the highway. We're not gonna be high speed chase. I got to keep my law license. But I'm not taking my baby to jail. You're gonna send an Uber or something. What you're not gonna do is have me drive my baby to jail. All right. I totally get where this lawyer is coming from. The fact that she took him at all was amazing to me. but it does show, the bar here gave her a public censure, by the way, which is not, think about it, it's not a suspension. It's somewhere between don't do it again and maybe you should do it again, but don't tell us about it. All right, it's not, right, the most serious criminal penalty. Certainly, the person didn't have to go to jail, as the prosecutors think we're being a little overzealous here. He's got life in prison. He'll give him a day. But it does show you that the rules are rules and they count for everybody, even if it's your baby. The AT&T Award. We give this award every year to lawyers who forget that it's very, very important to reach out and touch someone, particularly if that someone is the client. And time and again, we have lawyers who just simply fail to communicate. I want to say to you, under the authority vested in me by the West Virginia Bar Association, which is none, by the way, but by the West Virginia Bar, I want to tell you, you should feel free under my authority, none, to violate every rule of the canon, every rule. All right, you want to not do the work, great. You want to steal from the client, wonderful. You want to sleep with the client, enjoy yourself. But you must call the next day. And I'm being somewhat facetious, but I want to be serious about this. The rule on your screen now is the single most important rule in the canon. And I mean this. Until you violate this rule, there is never going to be a bar complaint, almost never. Why? Because as long as you're calling the client back, keeping them informed about the status of the matter, there's no reason to contact the bar. The only reason the client ever contacts the bar is they can't reach you. The clients don't even know this process exists. None of you knew this process existed until you became a lawyer. They have no reason to find out it exists if you call the client back. Now, I've done this at the awards now for 8 years. In that time, I have read about 8,000, case summaries, abstracts, etc. And in that time, I've gotten a feel, understanding for why lawyers don't call back. And it's going to surprise you. It's not because we're rude. The reason lawyers don't call back is because we don't want to ruin the surprise. Yes, you get your client a wonderful directed verdict, $50 million. You don't want to tell them that now in May. What do they have to look forward to at Christmas time? So I don't know about you, but I get my client a great result. I'm hiding out for the next several months. I'm not returning calls and emails. I want to jump out of the bushes on December 24th and say, hey girl, you've been rich all year. And that has happened precisely how many times in the history of bardom? I'm gonna give you a hint in round numbers, approximately how many times that's happened where a lawyer had a great result and didn't contact the client. In round numbers, approximately. Never happens that way. It happens because a lawyer did not get a good result and now they want to try to fix it first. Or maybe they want to, try to find some way to hide, right? While trying to figure out a way to tell the client the bad news. I'm going to tell you an important thing that the most important thing you can do is to contact the client first. The rule is simply this: whoever calls first wins. If you call the client and let them know the bad news before they otherwise find it out, you win. You certainly do better than if they find out and have to call you. I had this happen to me with a friend years ago, church buddy of mine. I hired him to do some work in my company and he did not do the work. And I found out and I was furious. Cost me money. And so I did what any good Christian would do in that circumstance. I prayed hateful stuff on him. Lord, please kill him. That type of thing. He contacts me first. And said, Brother Carter, I'm sorry, brother. I was wrong, brother. This is why my life turned out this hard because I'm irresponsible, brother. Please, brother, can we pray for me, brother? I am wrong, brother. You realize that I had to repent, right? I had to go apologize for being mad at him, okay, and wishing hateful stuff on, all right? I'm gonna encourage you, okay? You make a mistake, don't be like these lawyers. Now, you're not gonna make mistakes, but the bad lawyers didn't come today, all right? Talk to them, tell them, do not do this, what these lawyers do. Here's a movie, Return to Sender. And here we have a Kansas lawyer who gets disbarred for failing to communicate with the clients at all, including my favorite move of moving to a new law office and not leaving even a forwarding address. All right? They hired an ex-girlfriend on Facebook to track him down. Right? They can't find this guy anywhere. I'm going to encourage you to leave a forwarding address. I'm going to encourage you to contact the client before you move to office. All right, let them know. I'm definitely not going to encourage you to use, matter of fact, this picture. This is very distracting. So let's move on. Here's a movie, Hardball. Here we have a Georgia lawyer disbarred for failing to respond to a former client's request to return their file. Yes, for not returning the client file, or more importantly, for not showing up. The movie Hardball here, Keanu Reeves has a poorly acted scene, of course, in which he says to these young kids, I was once told that the key to life is showing up. And I'm constantly blown away by your ability to show up, Morpheus. I think you got the movies mixed up. But the point is that you got to show up. This is a simple matter, returning the client file. I've never seen anybody get disbarred for anything like this at all. But you will get disbarred if you won't return calls, and then you don't return a summons from the judge, and then you don't show up to the hearing. All of this because you decide you got something better to do than keep your law license. Here's a movie, Another Language. And here we have a DC lawyer who has a problem with literally a failure to communicate. I should have used whatever movie that is, right? We have a failure to communicate here. It's a New York lawyer or a DC lawyer, and he does a lot of immigration work. One of the clients he has is a Chinese national, a doctor who wants to stay in the country on an employment visa, and he speaks only Mandarin, or mostly Mandarin. He's learning English, but he's most proficient in Chinese. The lawyer is not, but the lawyer has an assistant who is, because that's how that would work. And so he's dealing mostly with the assistant, but the assistant leaves. Her visa actually runs out, and she has to go back to China. And now this lawyer is having difficulty communicating with the client, like anything besides hello and goodbye. And the lawyer says, I can't find anybody who speaks Mandarin in DC, which is not true, but for $4 an hour, yeah, it's going to be hard. All right? You're going to pay a little extra money for someone who's fluent in Mandarin, and you can't find that person immediately, and so he gets an 18-month suspension. But it is interesting here because you can see how that could happen very easily in any practice, where a lot of us in states like Arizona, all right, southern states, you have a lot of clients who speak Spanish mostly, right? Everyone speaks some English, but mostly Spanish. And if you have an assistant who normally handles those people and works with them and communicates with them, and you lose that assistant, you're gonna have to find some other way. The fact that you don't speak the same language would be probably an excuse. If someone came to your office and you say, hey, I can't represent you because I don't speak the language. But once you've started down that road, you have to be able to finish and make sure that you find someone else that can communicate with the client. And then the movie Talk to Me. And here we have a Massachusetts lawyer who has one of the more interesting cases. He gets in trouble for communicating with the opposing party, which you can imagine would be a problem. Except in this context, the communications are being initiated by the opposing party. The opposing party is saying, hey, I don't like what you're doing, lawyer. You're making this divorce more difficult than it has to be, and you are a horrible lawyer, your breath stinks, all of that type of stuff. And the lawyer's like, look, all right, my breath stinks a little bit, but I'm trying, all right? I got new mouthwash, and you hurt my feelings. And the lawyer's like trying to make his case and explain the things to the client, but you can't do that. And the other lawyer is saying, don't talk to my client. Now, we all understand in Rule 4.2, right, that you're not supposed to talk to the person who's represented by counsel. Makes total sense. The thing that's kind of interesting here is you notice that there are a couple of exemptions, right? Unless the lawyer has the consent of the other lawyer or is authorized to do so by the law or court order. Now, what about the consent of the other party? Can the other party say, I want to talk to you? And the answer is no. Even if the other party wants to talk to you, like keep sending you emails, you need the other lawyer's permission, all right? It's almost a right that belongs to the lawyer and not the client. An interesting distinction here, but it makes a difference. This lawyer, fortunately, gets just a public reprimand, but you'll get a CLE reprimand. Don't do that. So here are our nominees. And let's go ahead and see which one you think was the recipient of the AT&T Award, very prestigious award in the Ethies. Return to sender. You most likely to just leave completely, don't leave a rest, just, you know what, I'm out of here, y'all. Good luck to you. Hardball. Something minor, insignificant. You know, think about it. The thing about that case that's so interesting is they didn't ask the lawyer anything hard. It was like, just return the file. But you know what? It's a pain in the butt to get their file and send it to them. You're not getting any more money out of this. And so it's something it's easy to ignore until it's too hard to ignore and not have a law license. Another language. You hire someone who, you have clients who, speak a language primarily differently than you speak. And now you have an assistant who gone, you have a failure to communicate or talk to me. The issue here is that the opposing party wants to talk to you. Maybe the opposing party wants to tell you how much they hate, all right, the other, their own lawyer, which we've had cases like that. I hate my lawyer. I'd like to have you better, all right? Can you represent me instead? Can you have these conversations? Interesting. Interesting choice here. Boy, numbers are all over the place. All right, 5 seconds. Okay, you chose by slight plurality, 38% to 30 for talk to me. You chose the hardball. Let's see what the Academy chose, shall we? Another language. I see you thinking this is not going to happen much in West Virginia, all right? None of us even speak English well, nevertheless, a whole nother language. But in other parts of the country, this might be a bigger concern. And I think certainly for those of us who are on the coast near, near the southern border and even maybe on either coast, the idea of someone, coming in and speaking a different language and you not being able to communicate with them and losing that assistant, this is something that they'll worry about. You not so much. Joan Rivers. Here we have the award we give every year. Joan Rivers was known for her gossip. Can we talk? And so the rule we're dealing with every year is Rule 1.6, safe confidentiality of information. So we'll jump right into it. Here's our first nominee, the debt collector. Here we have a situation in which a lawyer is suspended indefinitely for threatening to reveal and actually disclosing confidential client information in an effort to collect a clearly excessive fee. In other words, the debt collector, the lawyer said, hey, you don't have my money, client. And the client says, I don't owe you that much money. You're overbilling me. So I don't care what you say, but here's what I know. If you do not, all right, pay my bill, I am going to report you to, in this case, it was an insurance company. I'm going to report you to the insurance commissioner for insurance fraud. You hired me to represent you in this insurance matter, and I think you have been dishonest and gave insurance fraud. Insurance fraud I helped you with, by the way, but I'm going to go ahead and tell the insurance commissioner, and that's going to be bad for you. The weird thing here is that this is a tactic that lawyers will sometimes use. They'll say to a client, I'll report you to ICE if you don't pay my fee. And interestingly enough, The threat itself is not what's actionable. In the rules, you cannot reveal client confidentiality. Right? You cannot violate any part of the provision. You cannot attempt to. You can't send a letter but send it to the wrong address. You can't encourage another person to do it. Hey, you send this over to, but normally there isn't anything about threatening to violate the rules. However, this lawyer actually went forward on this threat, so he did violating Rule 1.6, but also Rule 4.4 deals with harassment and burdening, harassing behavior. And part of this is considered, if you threaten that you're going to violate your oath and reveal client information, that's too far. It's not a good tactic. Maybe, I don't know, set up a payment plan. All right, but threatening to snitch, snitches get stitches, and also some time digging ditches, but not practicing law. You pick out a better rhyme. Also, I didn't even throw in nice here. Rule 1.8, a lawyer should not use information relating to representation of client to the disadvantage of the client, unless the client says, please disadvantage me, which has happened, round number, 0 times in the practice of law. Next nominee here is the movie The Middleman. And here we have a Vermont case involving a lawyer who represents the couple who wants to buy a home. Just by sheer coincidence, the home they want to buy is owned by a former client of the same lawyer. He does not disclose or get permission for what might be a conflict, and then begins to exacerbate the conflict by using information that he knows about the seller to the benefit of his new clients, the buyer. Hey, he's really broke. He needs to settle this before, his tax payments are due on this date, right? Let's, make him a lowball offer, etc. Who knew? But apparently you can do that. Now he says, yeah, I can do that because I don't owe that client any obligation anymore. They're a former client. Look at Rule 1.9. The duties are the same to former clients. Just because they're no longer your client now doesn't mean you can reveal their information. Here's the movie Gossip. Here we have a Louisiana lawyer. And amazingly, he's representing the husband in a divorce. That's not the amazing part. The amazing part is he runs into the wife. And while all of this is pending, says to her, hey girl, I don't know if you know, but your soon-to-be ex-man is sleeping with my assistant. This is what's called in the legal vernacular, player hating. All right, don't hate. All right, congratulate. I don't know this for a fact, but this seemed a little jealousy. I think the lawyer is a little mad that he's not dating his assistant because if you tell your client's spouse or soon-to-be ex-spouse that he is how do I say it? He is getting a little preemptive free time, right? He's jumped the gun a little bit. That's going to sour I think it's going to sour the divorce negotiations. It's not going to be good for your client. And don't hate, congratulate. All right, stop playing hate. Lastly, College Confidential. Well, actually, next to last, College Confidential. Here we have a Colorado lawyer who gets in trouble because no good deed goes unpunished. He actually goes back to his college alma mater, and he is helping some of the students there at the university in their criminal justice majors. He's a prosecutor. So he comes in once a year or so with a professor, brings him in, and he talks to the budding criminal justice majors about the law, and particularly being a prosecutor, and particularly cases, right, that are going on in his office. The problem is he's discussing here non-public facts that are actually about pending matters. And now, remember, if they were closed matters, that'd be one thing, right? But they're pending matters. And as a result, he's violated the ethics rules that, applying 3.8 to prosecutors specifically. This is one of them. And as a result, the lawyer, gets a public reprimand. Right? Don't do that anymore. Try to stick to the past cases. See here also 3.6. A lawyer here who's participating in investigation litigation shall not make an extrajudicial statement that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know will be disseminated by means of public communication. and will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing and adjudicated proceeding in the matter. Now you say, well, he just said this to a college class. Is that really public communication? Yeah, particularly with, if you say anything to 100 kids with a Twitter account, you might as well put it on the front page of the New York Times. As a matter of fact, you've actually done more because nobody reads New York Times anymore. Nobody reads a newspaper. You tell 100 college kids something, yeah, that's public. That's as publicly disseminated as you can get. And then lastly, the net. Here we have a Massachusetts lawyer, and he gets in trouble for discussing a pending client matter on Facebook. I'm going to show you what the lawyer posted. I'm back in the boss's office after appearing in Berkshire Juvenile Court in Pittsfield on behalf of a grandmother who was seeking guardianship of her 6-year-old grandson and was opposed by DCF yesterday. Next date, 10/23. Now, I'm not sure why any of this information needs to be publicly posted on Facebook. Is he expecting that 10/23 we're all going to come rent a van and go and cheer him on at this next guardianship hearing? But the first commenter apparently seems like a lawyer who's in the field, interested. Says, what were the grounds for opposing? The respondent explains. The grandmother will not be able to control her daughter, the biological mother, and DCF has concerns, unspecific. The commenter with apparent sarcasm, DCF does have a sterling record of controlling children and questionable mothers, after all. Indeed. Part of his correspondence continues in another subthread. So what's the preference? Foster care? What am I missing here? Respondent gives some more information. The grandson is in his 4th placement in foster care since removal from grandmother's residence in late July. I will discover what DCF is doing or not doing as to why DCF opposes the grandmother's guardian. More to come. In other words, as soon as I find out more information I shouldn't tell you, I'm gonna make sure I go ahead and violate the rules even more. Now, in this case, interestingly enough, the lawyer, how do I say this? The complaint here is not brought by the client. The client doesn't follow the lawyer on Facebook, didn't get back to the client. And the lawyer says in his defense, I did not mention any names here. I've used grandmother, child, etc. What can be the problem? The problem is a couple-fold. One, it's possible from the information provided to have a pretty good idea of who this is. A couple of things. You notice that the hearing, you notice Massachusetts lawyer, is not in Boston. It's in Pittsfield. All right, Pittsfield is a wonderful place, but there are about 17 people in Pittsfield. All right, I know 6 of them. All right, I know exactly who he's talking about here. That's a bad kid, by the way. I understand. He's horrible. But the point is that this is enough information that someone can piece together, and way more information that needs to be provided on Facebook, which, by the way, the amount of information needs to be provided on Facebook is precisely none. That said, question for you is, what did the Academy choose? Who did the Academy think should have won the award here? Let's bring up this poll. The winner of the Joan Rivers Award the debt collector. The one you're most likely to do is to threaten your clients. You're gonna snitch if they don't give you your money. Middleman, you're going to use information about a past client to advantage a current client. Gossip, that you are going to play hate, that you're just going to be shouting out juicy gossip. You family lawyers might want to put this down. I've spoken at family law conferences, and y'all tend to be a little chatty with the gossip, especially when it's good and it's juicy. I get it. It's juicy gossip. I'm sitting there the whole time with a bib and a napkin on. I get it. You might not want to do it so much. College confidential. You're going to, hey, just go out and try to educate the public, the children. Do it for the children. Remember Whitney Houston taught us, the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead. You know the song, all right? Or lastly, the net, that you're going to be on Facebook and just talking about stuff that nobody cares about, and you're just going to say way too much because you don't know how to keep your mouth shut because you on the Facebook. Doing a good job so far. Plurality, I think if you were going to get this. Excellent. All righty. It was close though. I got to cut off now because you're trying to blow it. You're blowing it, kid. You're blowing it. All righty. Take a look here. The results were just a very a small plurality. 32% said the net, and you're absolutely right. Now, some of you cheated because you've seen me at other events and you know me and you know I love me some Sandra Bullock. All right. I told my wife this. If loving Sandra Bullock is wrong, I don't want to be right. Guys, don't tell your wives this. All right. You're going to spend a little time in the penalty box, the couch. But it was worth it because it's the truth. Love me some Sandra Bullock. But it's not the reason why it wins in this case. It wins because this is the one not only that you're most likely to do, but that 7 of you have done since we started this webinar. This is the one that I see every day on my Facebook feed. Lawyers who are providing way too much information. By the way, the definition of way too much information is any information. Nobody needs to know about your hearing in Pittsfield. Nobody cares. You think anybody is out there going, I hope that your hearing in the DCF matter, it goes well today because your mama don't care, all right, about your hearing in Pittsfield. So nobody cares. But this is the kind of thing that we do often, all right? You give information, you think you're giving just a little bit of information and none. Some lawyers say, well, no, I have a private Facebook account. I have a very, very private Facebook account. Everything on it's just about me, and so nobody could see my private stuff on Facebook. Let me give you a good understanding of the relationship between the internet and privacy. If we were a Venn diagram of the 2 circles and where they come and intersect between privacy and the internet, those circles would be here. In fact, actually, those circles would be off the screen. All right, those are not at all overlapping things. There's no such thing as privacy on the internet. You say, but Sean, I have very serious privacy settings. You can't see my stuff, right? Yeah, I can't see it, but somebody can. Facebook makes a living, makes money by charging us as users or subscribers, what, $39.95? Is it $49.95 now? No, I'm sorry, it's free. Wait a minute, it's free? How is Mark Zuckerberg like one of the 20 richest people in the history of the planet, but he has a product that's for free? I mean, I know. Let me tell you how I know. Because if the product is free, you're the product. As we all know now, the way Facebook makes money is by selling our information. And even if it doesn't go to you or me or your mama, that information goes to somebody. I learned this a few years ago when Miley Cyrus came to town. Miley Cyrus, for those of you who are real adults, don't know, as a pop singer. Started out as a kid as Hannah Montana on Disney, and now is a young woman in her maybe 20s or so, who now has a pop music career. And sure enough, when she came to Phoenix, they wanted me to know that Miley Cyrus Bangers Tour was in town because they know that I fit within her natural demographic. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed this, but Miley Cyrus's natural demographic, 2 really. It's 13-year-old white girls and 52-year-old black men. That's really the way that works. I hope that's not the case. I'm almost sure that's not the case. All right. So why do I get the announcement that she's coming to town from Ticketmaster? Because at the VMA Awards, I had photoshopped myself in some picture with her and some silly thing we were talking about at the time. And as a result, somebody at Facebook got the idea that I was a fan. And they weren't going to keep that to themselves. They told Ticketmaster I was a fan because that's what Ticketmaster does, right? Everything you post on the internet, somebody gets to see. There is no such thing as privacy. If you put up that effective, that legally effective notice that says, Mark Zuckerberg, you do not have a right to share the things I store on your server for free. You know that one? That's effective in no jurisdiction. There's no such thing as privacy on the internet. All right, 10, 20, whatever people see it, it's too many. Least competent in a legal setting. This And some of you know the name of this TV lawyer. Hopefully we all do. It's Hamilton Burger, the Hamburglar. We're talking about lawyers who have problems with competence. They're just not getting it. Here's our first nominee in this category. The nominee is the movie Moonlight. And here we have a Minnesota lawyer who gets in trouble because he has not learned in his time in law practice how to be in two places at one time. I don't know how he didn't learn that. We had a whole class on that with third year, teleportation, maybe, to be able to leave your body and be in two different places at one time. I don't know what, he's not so bright. And so he must have went to the state school there. And as a result, he can't figure that out. But he needs to be able to do that because he has 2 court hearings in 2 different courts. And rather than explaining that to one or both of the judges and explaining that he can't do that, he decides to try to do it in a sitcom manner almost. You ever see the sitcom where one person has 2 dates on the same night, and rather than explain that, try to talk to one of them, make a choice, they decide they're going to go through with both dates with the same person, and so they spend the whole time going, hold on, I got to get some punch, and then running, and then, yeah, this lawyer did that. And now, that might have worked if the 2 different hearings he had in the same date were in the same courthouse or in the same city. They happen to be about 100 miles apart. So he's like, hold on, I got to run out to the car, and then 4 hours later, he comes back, whoo, boy, you just seen the traffic out there. 4, yeah, I got the answer right here. And it turns out that if you try to go do 2 different matters in the same courthouse in the same day, 100 miles apart, somebody's going to notice. And they noticed here, the lawyer gets suspended indefinitely, but not less than 120 days for trying to have 2 dates right in the same day. One thing you see about Rule 1.3, the commentary, a lawyer's workload must be controlled so that each matter can be handled competently. Sometimes we have to do the Nancy Reagan thing, and that doesn't mean marry Ronnie, but you can do that too. But it also means that you have to learn to say no, all right? Even if you like to do both, you can't. Here is Victor Victoria. And here we have a New Mexico lawyer who gets suspended for not being careful and understanding if he's representing Victor or Victoria. And this almost is another sitcom situation where the lawyer here files a claim on behalf of his clients, Jesse Rodriguez. And Jesse, he says, has been injured at a riot in the male, penitentiary in New Mexico, one of them. And, the guards beat him up and he has a civil rights claim, et cetera. And it turns out that his client, Jesse, is actually short for Jessica. And Jessica has not been in the riot in the male's prison, thankfully, but had a different situation in a woman's prison. And the lawyer has filed the original complaint. It gets dismissed, and he comes back and he says, "Wow, I got a completely different matter here for a different Jesse, and it's totally different. It's 2 different Jessies, Jesse and Jessica. No, it's one matter that you filed incorrectly the first time, and I encourage you to get the person's full name. I know that can be confusing. A lot of girl and boy Jessies. Get a middle name too. Middle name would be a good thing because it might be, she might be Jesse Rodriguez, but she's also going to be like Jessie Cynthia. So you can get a middle name too. Always do that. 3 names. And you see here, lawyer, one of his problems is that he wasn't competent representation. Wasn't as thorough as he needed to be. Here's a movie, same time next year. Great movie, not as interesting of a case, but a little interesting. An Indiana lawyer who gets in trouble for what the judge describes as a systematic negligence that has characterized their career. And basically the problem is it's a lot of same time next year. It's a lot of form filings that have the same errors. There's a typo that gets repeated in 22 different filings because once you get it in the form, it's hard to get out. I'm gonna confess that this could happen to good lawyers, and it even happened to me, which is not necessarily the same thing. But there are several major companies out there that were organized by unanimous written consent of director. Yep, not unanimous, unanimous. And the reason is because the first time I typed it in, I don't know what I was thinking, but I typed in unanimous, and we didn't have spell check back then. This is WordPerfect, all right? No one knew how to do anything back then. And so for the next few deals, all of the corporations were organized by unanimous written consent of director. It could happen. Management. Here we have a New York lawyer who gets suspended for 2 years for failing to adequately supervise a subordinate lawyer who just happened to steal $2.3 million from the firm's clients. Now, normally, if money goes missing from the firm client trust account, you're financially responsible for putting that money back. And one of the ways it's helpful to put it back is if you keep your law license so you can continue to do that. But there are times in which you will be charged for the ethical violation as if you had stolen the money yourself. Take a look here at Rule 5.1 and about your responsibilities of a partner or supervisory lawyer and in supervising another lawyer. And you'll see here that you are ethically responsible, just as if you had done it yourself. You receive the same punishment from the bar if you order or ratify the conduct. That makes sense. But take a look at C2 there. You know the conduct at its time when the circumstances can be avoided or mitigated, but fail to take remedial action. And this is what often happens with lawyers, is that they didn't steal the money themselves, but they had an assistant who did, or junior lawyer, paralegal, bookkeeper, etc. And the problem is that the lawyer did not act quickly enough when they noticed money was missing. We had a case in Maryland a couple of years ago of a lawyer who noticed some money missing, called the paralegal in and said, what's going on? She was handling the real estate closings. And she said, well, I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry, but I borrowed like 14 grand. He said, fine, all right. I know you know where you work, and I'm gonna put the money back, and then we're gonna make up a payment plan, for you to pay me back this money. But we've been together too long, right? We're not gonna break up this relationship and partnership over 14 grand. And that was the wrong answer. A couple months later, the lawyer comes in to find out 400,000 is missing, which he doesn't have. He can't just write a check for. And it turns out that the paralegal's gone. And the lawyer ends up getting suspended for 2 years, which is hard to pay back the 400,000 driving Uber. You gotta drive to China like every day, all right, to do that. And why? Because he knew that something was going on and didn't take remedial action at that moment. And then lastly, the day the earth stood still. Here's someone that should probably be near and dear to all of our hearts. This is a CLE related one. We have a Kansas lawyer who gets in a little bit of trouble for falsely reporting that he attended a live seminar at the same time that he was viewing a CLE seminar online. Interestingly enough, it's technically possible you could do both. Right, go to the live seminar, set up your laptop, right, and have both of them going. It's impossible that you're going to learn anything from any of them, right? None of us can multitask. That's not really literally a thing, but you could actually do that. The bar is encouraging you not to. The lawyer here doesn't get this bar or suspended. It's like, just don't do that. Reprimand, all right? Don't do that. That looks bad for all of us. I'm encouraging those of you who are currently on another webinar to log off one of them. I'd suggest you log off this one, all right? But certainly you can't do two at one time. You're not that smart. All right, none of us are. Well, maybe I am, but that's none of the rest of you. So here are nominees here. And, ooh, this is a tough one. Let's see what the Academy chose here. Who the Academy think is least competent in a legal setting? You most likely to have two matters that are going at the same time, and you're juggling, going back and forth between them, trying your best. Victor Victoria, that you just don't get all the facts straight, like maybe gender. It's close enough. Same time next year, that you get bad language in the form, and it continues over and over and over. You make the same mistakes over and over because it's in the form. Management, that you have a colleague or subordinate that is involved in something untoward, and you don't move quickly enough to fix it, and now you're all in trouble. Or are you most likely to wait to the very last minute to do your CLE, where now you need to get 48 hours in the next 24 hours, and now you are literally bending the space-time continuum and breaking all laws of physics to make sure that you get your CLE. And this is close. So many good examples here. All right, I'm gonna cut you off here, but we have, this is all over the place. By just the smallest of pluralities, we have, as you can see here, same time next year. All right, it's the one you think the Academy went with, Alan Alda. You can't ever go wrong with Brother Alan. All right, so I totally get it here. Let's see what the Academy chose. Drum roll. Oh, Keanu Reeves. That was a sleeper. Nobody expected Keanu to get the award. Who would? All right. But the reason that he did, I believe, probably is because I have the best CLE related jokes, I think. Also, this is an important topic to me because this is how my kids will go to college, likely community college, but this is important to me, CLE, and the fact that I want to be clear here that what we are doing now is not CLE. It's not continuing legal education. It is continuing legal attendance. All right. The requirement for you to pass this course is to be alive in 71 minutes. Okay. I have a very high pass rate of my courses. Matter of fact, everybody passes unless I do it here in Arizona or in Florida. I lose 30% of those people, but that's natural causes, people. That's not my fault. Generally, if you are alive at the end of the program, you get the credits. You don't have to learn anything. You know that. That's why some of you haven't been listening from the beginning, all right? But let me encourage you and say something that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I see it all the time. When I come into my live webinars, people come into the live webinar, and the first thing they do is they set up a laptop or an iPad or a barbecue grill. A couple weeks ago in Florida, they set up a volleyball court in the back. All right, no intention of learning anything. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. As a profession, we have image issues. Let me tell you what never helps any of us. When one of us is so uninformed that we think, say, negligence is something you get at Victoria's Secret. And by the way, for those of you who haven't been paying attention in CLE, what you get at Victoria's Secret is called a negligee. All right, negligence is something different. All right, or in the case of my wife, flannel pajamas. But the point is very simply this, all right, is I want to encourage you to pay attention in the CLE, to actually learn something. Not now, this is ridiculous, but in other classes, we want to know something. And here's why, because the malpractice grace period has narrowed. For years, there was, in effect, a malpractice grace period. And what I mean by that is that as long as you got the law right within 6 months or so, you were fine. Nobody expected you to know about the most recent court ruling that came down, because how could you possibly know? Back then, we were all prisoners of the West. West Publishing had to tell us and put in the New Shepherd Guide when the new cases had, had come down. And that you might not get for 6 to 9 months. Basically, you had until the next employment law seminar to be practicing the current year's law. Now, that period has narrowed quite a bit. The current period is -9 days. Yeah, you got to be a little psychic. You have 9 days before it actually happened to make sure you get the right law. And I'm being somewhat facetious, but not really. Let me explain it to you. Iowa had a case. A lawyer files a criminal appeals brief. 9 days after filing that brief, the Iowa Supreme Court has a ruling that dramatically changes his client's position. It dramatically improves it. The client has a very, very strong case for, right, a new trial at least. And the lawyer gets disciplined for not amending that filing to reflect the law that had changed 9 days after filing the original one. That's what I mean by being psychic. You have to be able to keep track of things now instantaneously. And that means, and actually in the other CLEs, you might want to pay a little bit of attention. That said, best use of deceptive marketing. This poster here has not been photoshopped. This is actually a real, actual poster that, or billboard that went up in downtown Chicago several years ago now. The day is very famous in Chicago because there were lots of accidents on the loop that day. As lawyers began wrecking into other cars, most of them while reaching for their cell phones to try to call the state bar to get this horrible sign taken down. And the state bar said, we can't help you. All right, this is not necessarily deceptive. It's not false. Life is short. You should get a divorce. Most of us are on our third marriages. How are we going to tell people not to get a divorce? All right. I think the ad was still deceptive, not because of the text. I've been married long enough to know that that's good. That's good life advice there. I've been married 27 years. Yeah, life's short. You probably should get a divorce. All right. But here's what was different is that this ad is deceptive because of the visuals. The presumption is if you see this poster, that if you get a divorce, you get to pick from the left or right side of this menu. We've been in Chicago. We've seen these people. That's not your menu. Now, if you've been eating a bunch of cheesesteak hoagies, all right, that's not your menu. All right, you better stay where you are. By the way, just for matters of disclosure, the hunky guy on the right there, that's me. Yep, that's me. I know he doesn't look like me. You say, Sean, he's white, you're black. But in the winter, I'm a little lighter than this in the winter. In my chest, I do chest modeling. I know it doesn't look like it, but CLE gets slow in the winter. I gotta make ends meet. Just take my word for it and let me believe that that's me. Now, nominees in this category, the movie Boiler Room. We had a lawyer who set up, in a sense, a boiler room. He decides in California he's going to do loan modification services. If anyone ever approaches you about loan modification services, run. Or call me personally and say, Sean, I'd like my Ethy award delivered to this address because you're going to get one. It's almost always a problem. Here we have a problem because this lawyer has 3 guys in his boiler room upstairs in his office who are cold calling people all the time about these loan modification services. People who, homes are in foreclosure, et cetera, and people want to keep their homes, and he is doing bang up business. Specifically, every day he comes in his office and has 20, 30 appointments with people where they give him an initial deposit of $500, which then he puts into an account, and then sees the next person and never thinks about that person again because all he has time to do is to do client intake because his boiler room guys are really good. And they get a cut and a percentage, and guess what? You can't do that. Rule 7.2 talks specifically about not sharing fees with non-lawyers. You can't have a boiler room. Next nominee is the movie Sweet Charity. We have a Indiana lawyer, gets suspended for 3 years for, among other things, using her law firm website to solicit funds for, and it was called a law firm support fund for indigent clients and attorneys. Turns out that the only person being served by that fund was the indigent attorney, her. And as a result, you can't do that. You also probably can't have your microphone unmuted, but certainly can't raise money for charity on your law firm site when that charity is you. Who would have thunk it, really? You got to beg more cleanly, people, or not at all, but certainly don't try to have a GoFund you. The movie here is House Calls. Here we have a Ohio lawyer who made a house call, actually more specifically a jail house call. The lawyer reads in the paper about a very high-profile case involving a woman who killed her husband. And it's a high-profile case because, as a matter of, this is, well, a dream of many, okay? And as a result, it's making a lot of national news. And she wants to, she knows a friend of the defendant. She gets arranged an appointment to get in to see the defendant, and she wants the defendant to allow her to do the representation. Interestingly enough, this is a problem. Take a look at Rule 7.3. A lawyer shall not by in person, by telephone, etc., directly or indirectly solicit professional employment with significant motive for the lawyer's doing so is a lawyer's pecuniary gain. She says, that's not why I did it. I did not do it for the money, honey. I did it for the experience. I want to become a high-profile criminal lawyer. I've never really had a criminal case, certainly not a murder case, and I need the experience, so I wanted to do this case for her because I am not qualified to do it. People, that's a worse argument than I just violated the marketing rules. All right, that's incompetence. All right, that's malpractice. Don't make that argument. Your argument can't be I needed the experience, so I wanted to come and mess up this person's life, right? By ineffective assistance to counsel. But it was the argument she went with, and even then the bar said no. One, you asked these people to mortgage their home, all right, to pay for your stuff, so you had some motive, all right, of pecuniary gain. And the truth of the matter is, yeah, you're almost always going to have some motive of pecuniary gain. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not independently wealthy. I need to get paid. All right. And as a result of that, most of what I do is going to be for pecuniary gain. It's going to be a significant motive. Doesn't have to be the only motive. Sometimes I want to also commit malpractice, but mostly it's pecuniary gain. It's a good example of that you can't run around, cold calling people, right? Going door to door, or in this case, cell to cell, trying to get business. And then me, myself, and I. Here we have a Wisconsin lawyer who's publicly reprimanded for using a law firm name and letterhead that lists several partners, despite the fact that she has a solo practice. I said, well, wait a minute, really? Someone would list several names in their law firm name, Jones Smith, etc., and just be them? Yeah, all the time. That's actually how every other professional service person works. Most of us have consultant friends. If you have one, I'm not encouraging you to get one, but you have one left over, ask for their business card. They're going to have one. All right, consultants always do. I promise you, the business card does not read John Q. Public all by myself and alone. It reads John Q. Public and Associates, John Q. Public Advisors, the John Q. Public Group, right? John Q. Public and Company, right? John Q. Public and the Planet. It's always, gives you the impression that it's a large organization. The reason for that is simple. It's because for clients, I don't want to break this to some of you, but size matters. Clients like to think that they have large organizations that can provide them coverage and resources. And so there is an incentive to want to give clients the impression that you have such an organization. The challenge is that it encourages professionals to often use the royal we. we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, we'll do that. And I confess, I do that a lot myself. There's a lot of we language. Oh yeah, well, can we set up this for you? You know, let me talk to my team and we'll get that. And then I get together. My team is my oldest son and our Shorky and the goldfish, and we talk it over. And the goldfish, by the way, provides no good input. We listen to him once. Don't listen to the goldfish. All right, it's ridiculous input. I think it's been that vision out of the fishbowl, just bad. Don't just trust me. The point is that it's very easy for people to get in that habit of the royal we and create problems. And then, of course, people doing it on purpose. Two areas, we see it every year in the Ethy Awards. One, lawyers who are using plural. Their website will list attorneys, our attorneys, right? The counselors at law. Unless you can, unless you have, I guess, schizophrenia. And by the way, diagnose multiple personalities, and make sure you have a doctor's note. You can't use attorneys when it's just you. You certainly can't use names. We had an attorney a couple years ago who wanted 3 names. Figured 3 names would be great because, quite frankly, think about it. 3 names doesn't denote just that you have 3 lawyers. The biggest firms in this country have 2 names, maybe 3. You could have 2,000, all right, with 3 names. She wants to get 3 names, so she said, I'm gonna use my name, my mother's last name, which is different than mine, and my grandmother's last name, which is different than ours. And she goes by Smith, Jones, and Nana. And it turns out you can't do that. You can't list Jones and Nana unless they are licensed practicing attorneys in your firm. Same thing with and associates. And associates better be actual lawyers, not your goldfish iguana, all right? Your play cousin, and your stuffed animals. Has to actually be real associates. We see this all the time, a desire for lawyers to try to give an impression that they have a large organization, and you can't do that. But don't take my word for it. Look at 7.5. Lawyers may state or imply that they practice in a partnership or other organization only when that is the fact. And when it's not, you can't. That being said, who are our nominees here? And let's do our, tell me which are the ones that you're most likely to do. 1, to allow your boardroom to get out of control. Start hiring cold callers. Next thing you know, you're out of control. Sweet charity. Try to maybe raise a little money on your law firm for, I don't know, you. All right, indigent lawyer, right? Business is slow during the COVID.com. House calls. As you're going to be desperate to reach people, you will do door-to-door, right? Cold call. Hi, we have a litigation special, 2 for 1 sue. Anybody sue anybody? Get the second sue free. Or me, myself, and I, you're going to use the royal we and branding. This is interesting. Let me show you, wow. This is a blowout. We haven't had this yet. We have a majority, a clear majority. I can stop it. This is crazy. 63% of you said me, myself, and I, the one you're most likely to do. And many years you would have won. The Academy, however, I think went a different way here and had a different thought. House calls. 1, Walter Matthau. That's tough, people. It's always tough to beat Matthau, really in anything. All right. If you were in that walking race with him, I think he would win. Walter Matthau was a heck of an actor. Always tough to beat him with the Academy. But more importantly, it could have gone either way. But one of the real things the Academy thought here was not that you could go door to door, right? You're going to be, going cell to cell, trying to get drunk new business. But the idea that you might try that electronically. Remember, it said in person, right? Telephone or real-time electronic contact. contacting people online, all right, DMing them, right, on Facebook, etc. Ooh, I see you fell down, right? Can I contact you here? And I'm going to encourage you to be careful here. Let's take a look. We go back a couple of slides. Take a look at the rule here, because I want to be clear. There are a couple of exceptions. If the person is a lawyer themselves, hey, you can cold call them. You can camp out in their backyard. Or you have a family, close personal, or prior professional relationship with the lawyer. So you can bug your mom on, let you handle the slip and fall. The question often becomes, is your BFF on Facebook qualify as family or close personal? And generally speaking, the answer is no. Yes, I know BFF stands for best friends forever, but you will block them tomorrow when they have a different political opinion than you do. That's not a serious thing. All right, let's move on to worst love scene. There's no argument that this is the worst love scene in the history of the world. I'm not going to get into all of it, but I think none of us, it's none of our top fives. It's certainly not any of our favorite love scenes. The love scenes I'm going to talk about here are all going to be worse. That said, I want to show you and go through my favorite rule in the canon. I never do a webinar without talking about this rule. And we should be clear, I don't always talk about legal ethics in my, if I'm speaking about global warming, I'm going to get this rule in there. And the reason is very simple, is that this rule is built on a supposition. I don't know if it's true, but I desperately want the supposition behind this rule to be true. Because the supposition behind this rule is that as lawyers, we are very sexy. Now, it's obviously clear in my case, but I can't see the rest of you. But the thought is that we are sexy. So sexy that no client could ever be expected to resist our charms. We're so interesting and persuasive and magnetic. Therefore, the state bar had to put down a bright line rule that would protect the client from our sexiness. Now, the interesting is that this is part of the ABA model rules. And as you know, the ABA model rules have no legal force and effect. All right, the ABA model rules basically have as much legal force and effect as whoever smelt it dealt it. All right, it doesn't mean anything. What gives these rules any force is when your various states go and specifically adopt them. But when they do, they don't have to do it all or nothing. They can go a la carte, freestyle, all right? Take a little bit of this, a little bit of trust account, etc. And about a third of the states, when they got to this rule, the stance of the bar was, nah, bruh, we good. Mind your business. You all up in our Kool-Aid and don't know the flavor, all right? Stop playing hating. All right, and about a third of the states said, we're not gonna have this rule. Now, what they tried to say is that we have a rule already, 1.7A2, that says that we don't need the rule because we have 1.7A2, and that basically says that a lawyer, if you have a conflict of interest, personal interest, then that'll solve most of this. No, nah, bruh. This rule doesn't even solve most of this. Interestingly enough, about 2/3 of the states said, yep, we need this rule. We're too sexy out here. This is getting crazy. All right, we need this rule badly. As I've traveled the country, I've come to a firm conclusion that the presence of a rule in your jurisdiction is in direct proportion to the attractiveness of the lawyer in that jurisdiction. In other words, I'll illustrate it to you. I did this seminar about 2 to 3 months ago in Georgia. I don't know if you've ever seen these people. It wasn't pretty. The policy of the Georgia State Bar is if you can get it, go for it. Don't quote me on that. You guys are a little better looking. I wanted to come see you in April myself to confirm it, but you actually have a rule. Matter of fact, you see those three, the ellipses at the end here? Your rule goes farther than the ABA model rule and defines what sexual relations are. And I didn't know if there'd be kids looking over your shoulder. I didn't want to put all that in there because they got a little graphic on exactly what defines sexual relations. Y'all have thought about this rule a lot. All right, you got a specific definition of sexual relations. Go look it up. that's your constant. You know, wait till bedtime. But look it up then. It add a little spark in your marriage. All right. In this case, though, we're not talking about that. We're talking about lawyers who have a problem. We're going to go through our nominees here. First nominee is the movie The Ladies' Man. Here's a Vermont lawyer who pictures himself as being a ladies' man. He is having relationships, concurrent relationships, and sometimes simultaneous with multiple clients. Most often, there's a pattern here that's gonna, I think, detract a little bit from his swag. He thinks of himself as being the ladies' man, being cool and debonair and suave and what was it, Romeo, whatever the term was in your day coming up. But really, the term that's probably most likely and more accurate for him is predatory. See, all of the women who just happen to, fall in love and just can't, got to get them some of this, can't keep their hands off of some of this. All of those women are in poor financial straits. They often need money. They can't afford to even pay his legal fees. And so he hires them in his various businesses so he can keep them close, so he can harass them personally from there. And when you need money to pay off your debts, you kind of are more amenable, I guess, to some of these things. And this lawyer, like I said, he's not so cool. He's quite a bit predatory. Now, he does have a very interesting case. I gave you here the reference in the handout materials to the matter. You bored on Saturday night and you got a bottle of Merlot, you might want to crack it open. It makes for interesting reading. There were some things in there that I confess, I read all 63 pages of it. All right, it's spellbinding. Like I said, you can spend the worst 2 hours. All right, I'm not telling you that it's not interesting, but I am telling you that it's wrong. And predatory. And generally speaking, we know that because it's very simple. If he, I don't know, had women who were not beholden to him and had money of their own, then we'd think he were much more of a ladies' man. He's more of a predator man. Next nominee is the movie Text. Here we have a Wyoming lawyer who gets disbarred for sleeping with a client and for texting/sexting the client. Let me just say this. If you send over 10,000 texts to anybody, you got a problem. Or that's too many texts. I don't care if you're 13 years old girl. That's too many texts for a grown man or woman. Over 10,000 texts, just texting all day back and forth. Many of them explicit. Some with visual aids. The lawyer did a lot of sexting. I want to help you out, guys, because 2 or 3 of you are about to press the button now. Don't do it. Let me explain. Sexting, by the way, is for the lawyer who thinks that the client needs a visual representation of the kind of representation the lawyer would like to provide. Advocacy, I guess maybe a better word for it. And so the lawyer will disrobe and take a picture of himself, which I promise you no one wants to see. This is something that at first only really affected young lawyers, baby lawyers, because the rest of us would never even occur to us to do this. I know my good looks belie this, people. Black don't crack. I know you think I'm 22, 23. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I'm 278 years old, okay? I'm much older than the camera. All right? We used to have to draw the people on a rock chisel like Flintstones when I was coming up. But even in the 70s and 80s and 90s, when I was around as well, we didn't do a lot of sexting back then because we had cameras. And you think you have a camera now, young people. No, you have a phone. This is not a camera, all right? Because a camera can't, I don't know, make my dinner reservations and do my taxes and set up my nightly plans, all right, after the dinner reservations and taxes. My phone, my camera can only do one thing. I take pictures, and they weren't even good pictures, okay? We didn't have megapixel, all right, resolution back in the day, all right? Every basically picture taken before 2010 looked like a Rorschach test, okay? It was just a bunch of blurs and squiggly lines. You think I'm kidding? Next time you go visit your mom, look at a photo album. First of all, you're not gonna be able to look at it by yourself. You're gonna need a guide. She's gonna have to sit down and tell you who all those people in the pictures are because you have no idea. You can't recognize any of them. And she's gonna be like, look, see the one with the big beard and mustache there? That's your Aunt Helen. No. But yeah, it's a goatee. That's definitely your Aunt Helen. And the point is because we didn't have clear pictures. And even when you got a picture back then, you couldn't see it immediately. We, believe it or not, would have to hand our film, trust me, look it up, to a guy in a creepy blue vest. And he would go in a room somewhere and then in the dark by himself and develop our pictures. And then he would take the ones he wanted for his personal collection and then give you the rest he didn't want. And you know I'm telling the truth. If you've grown, you know I'm telling the truth. You have never in your life gotten back all 32 pictures from the photo mart. Nope, you got back 27, 28, with always some lame excuse. It was overexposure. If you couldn't get them all done, yeah, it was over. Yeah, somebody can be overexposed, all right. If you were overexposed, they kept the picture and added to their collection. As a result, none of us were thought to do sexting. But now all of those things are taken care of. You can take a picture, you can see how much you like it, etc., and take another one, do the up and to the right. That's the good angle, guys. Women taught me this, up and to the right. All right, it gives you, good profile. Trust me. But anyway, take a picture of yourself, and the nice thing about it is you get sound effects, because just before you send it, at least on my Apple phone, it makes a sound whoosh, which is exactly what happens to your law career when you send this picture, whoosh. I thought of ways to explain this over the last 8 years to men to not do this. And I'm only talking to men, all right? Women have way better sense than this. I've only had one case ever of a woman who was disciplined for sexting. And now, in fairness, I don't think she was the only woman who ever did. But as men, we're not gonna tell on you ladies, all right? So, but the reason, by the way, she got told on, it wasn't even because of the client. It was the client's girlfriend. We have a divorce lawyer here who's representing the husband in divorce. She and the husband become very chummy in the course of representation. They start sending explicit emails and texts back and forth. I'm absolutely sure he started it, no doubt. She reciprocates. She gets a call one day, not from him, from the new girlfriend of the soon-to-be ex-husband. And she says, girl, you have jumped the line. I see these messages here. I have not even officially stolen him from his wife yet. You have broken protocol. The way it works is I steal him from his wife, then you steal him from me. You have broken the code here. You've broken your ethical obligations. I've been to Sean's seminar. He explains this well, all right? You are in violation of our rules here. And you know what? If my man doesn't get full custody, all right, then I'm telling the state bar. She calls back about a couple hours later, the girlfriend does, and says, you know what, lawyer, forget that. Those kids were here this weekend. They're bad. I don't want custody. Don't want custody. I want $3,000 in small unmarked bills delivered to me in a Walgreens parking lot. Now, you know better than I do. You don't do your extortion in a Walgreens parking lot. You got to go higher end, maybe a Target, a Trader Joe's. But anyway, Costco. The lawyer has to actually tell on herself, all right, to avoid this extortion. That's how bad it gets and how rare it is for women to get caught in this. But men, every Tuesday. And guys, no woman wants the picture. And I prove it to you. My wife and I have been married for 28 years, all right? If I were to send my wife a picture of me, okay, my wife of 28 years, we would be divorced by the end of that calendar month. Yep, And I mean fully divorced. Settlement, me living in the Marriott, all of that, gone in a month. No counseling, nothing. Because she would know without a fact, without a doubt, that that picture was meant for another woman. She would. And you know why? Maybe I shouldn't confess this, but I know in 28 years of marriage, she's never asked for the picture. I presume this woman loves me, had 4 of my ugly children, and still has never asked for a picture. The client you just got off ABO or from guardian ad litem does not want to see the picture, okay? Do not send it. Remember, whoosh. Here is the movie Caught. Here we have one of my buddies. I believe this is an Arizona lawyer. One of the more interesting cases I've ever come across because the lawyer attempts to hit on the client. Starts saying stuff to her like, she says, I'm going to bed. He says, you need someone to come tuck you in. And she consistently and politely demurs. No, thanks, I'm fine. I'm washing my hair, right? Oh, 24/7. Yeah, I don't want to see you. The phone falls into the evil clutches of the lawyer's wife. And she begins reading these messages. And so she reaches out and starts calling the client and says, you better stay away from my man. This is my man. Girl, I will cut you. You better stay away from my man. I'm paraphrasing. The client says, what are you talking about? I do not want your man. Read the text. I told your man I do not want your man. Why would I want his ugly butt? You don't want his ugly butt. Well, you think I do? I look better than you. No, I do not want your man. Girl, you better stay away from my man. I will cut you. All right. This goes on for weeks. The client, the lawyer's wife keeps calling the client so often that the client has to go to the state bar and says, will you please get his wife to back up off me? Now, if the state bar has to referee a dispute between you, your spouse, and the client that you've been hitting on unsuccessfully, you're going to get nomination for the Ethy Awards. I'm going to make fun of you for a little while, and it's going to be embarrassing for everybody. I'm encouraging not to hit on the client, and certainly if you do, you got to get a burner phone. All right, you cannot. You know you can't keep the phone from your spouse. Your wife's gonna get your password. Trust me. Here's the movie Something to Talk About. Here we have a West Virginia lawyer gets a 120-day suspension. And I noticed that this is you, so perk up. Now, by the way, if this happens to be you personally, this happens to me. It happened to me once in Ohio. I never named names. I'm not going to name names here. If it happens to be you, pretend like it's not. You laugh just like everybody else. Don't post in here. How dare you talk about me? You're going to out yourself. I'm not going to out you. You just lay low. I got your back. All right. Just pretend like it's not you. Laugh more than anybody else. All right? It's not you. Okay. But we have a case here in which a lawyer gets suspended for 120 days. I love this one for not sleeping with a client, but for sexually suggestive Facebook posts or messages. The thing that's interesting here is that notice that, look at the text of the rule. A lawyer shall not have relations with the client. And the lawyer says, I didn't have relations. She said no. Remember, I told you before, Rule 8.4, a lawyer shall not attempt to violate the rules. So the fact that you strike out is not a defense. It's actually more pathetic because now you're getting in trouble for something you didn't do. It's worse, all right? But the fact that you struck out is not going to be a defense. It does not help, all right? Obviously, don't do that. And then lastly, here's a movie called The Last Resort. Here we have a Pennsylvania case of a lawyer who is at a resort. He's at a resort with his work colleagues. And the interesting thing is that it's a bench bar event conference. I've spoken at a lot of bench bar conferences, okay? Right, it's basically the local bar association, equivalent of an annual meeting. All right. I love speaking at bench bar conferences. Fun, especially the dinners. lawyer dinner is always fun to speak at. People who are already drunk are always easy to make laugh. All right, great time for me. We have a situation here which the lawyer had too much to drink. And there are two types of drunks, as you know. There are, belligerent and fighty drunks, and there are levy drunks. And this is door number 2, Namonte. This is a very levy drunk. Even if people that he is levy to aren't levy back. He's not catching those hints, and at the time is inebriated and probably doesn't care, and begins making very aggressive passes at his the other women, two of the other women who are colleagues in his local bar there, and they're not having it at all. Good for you, sisters. They stand up like, hey, you better back up off me. Starts talking to the men. Come get your boy. Come get your, don't. I'll cut him. Come get your boy. The men take him off and say, hey, you cut this out, go to bed, right? Send him up to his room. Next day he comes down, a little embarrassed, like, hey, you know what, we're good. And the lady said, no, we're not good. He gets thrown out of the local bar. Not the local bar establishment, the local bar association. Normally, it's not easy to get thrown out of a local bar association. Voluntary bar, they want all the lawyers they can get. That's how it works, right? You don't throw people out, but they said you can't come back here anymore. You're disturbing everybody, and there were disciplinary charges brought against him for these untoward passes. The Pepe Le Pew days, guys, are over. It's no longer Pirates of the Caribbean. We can run around grabbing at people. It is all over. And that said, here are our nominees, and we're going to have the Academy decide which one you're most likely, or we'll ask you. I will ask you, but which do you think is the one that you're most likely to do? Is it the ladies' man, the texting, caught? Your spouse is going to be the one who loses their mind. I love how the no votes come in. No one wants to copy any of this, and I respect it. But you lie, people. All right, I make a living. I have a whole seminar about this topic. All right, this is all. When I do the Ethy Awards, how many do you think cases do I have to read through before I can pick out my 5 nominees? Like 100, 200? All right, and I don't even consider until you've done something crazy, like had your spouse get you in trouble. Let me just say this, okay? On a serious note, and I'm not a serious at law, right? I'm a humorist at law. There is a situation or something here that is deeply problematic, and what is deeply problematic is the idea, all right, for too many lawyers. Oh, I know the problem was. I didn't give you a chance to vote, huh? And I'm not. I'm going to talk to you for a second. Let me just talk to you for a second. We'll go back to silliness later. What's deeply problematic in these cases is the predatory nature. Many times when you read the disciplinary complaints, you'll see that the women, it's almost always women, will say, I wasn't interested. Why did you acquiesce to his demands? Well, I wasn't interested, but I needed someone to help me with this custody matter, and I gave him my last $3,000. I'm trying to stay out of jail, and I don't want to lose custody of my babies, and so there was a case in Maine that shows how sometimes the predatory nature of this is not obvious to the man, because most of us as men have never been put in a position where having a physical relationship with a woman is something that was the lesser of two evils. That doesn't resonate for most of us. It's never the lesser. It's the better of every good, right? It's never the lesser of two evils. We had a case in Maine. Lawyer's representing the wife, and she's in a very abusive marriage. And he says to her, "You got to get out of that house. You're going to get killed in that house." And she said, "I know, but I don't have anywhere to go." He said, "Well, come live with me in my big house." And so she comes to live in his big house. And a little while later, they began to have a relationship. and physical relationship. And unbeknownst to him, she's not at all interested in this relationship, but she feels it's better than the alternative. And at the disciplinary hearing, you could almost, feel the sense of bewilderment on his end. He's like, well, I thought you liked me. And why would you not like me? I'm, decent looking guy. I've got a nice house. I've been nice, etc. And not understanding that sometimes people are put in a position where being with you will be the lesser of two evils. I don't think, from what I could tell, that guy wanted to be the predator. He was. That's why this rule is important. That's why I say every state should have one, and why this rule has to be sacrosanct, because you won't know what the situation is. And as guys, most of us are delusional. We are. Think about it. I make a living, all right, putting my face on the things. I'm not that good looking. I should have kept my day job. I didn't know. I thought I was, all right? As men, we tend to be delusional about these things. Nobody thinks that that someone is being forced to sleep with you. Why would everybody not want to? And as a result, you'll get yourself in positions where, if you're a decent person, you don't want to be that person. But you will be, and that's why we have the rules. I was teasing earlier, people. I'm 53 years old. The only thing I've learned in these 53 years is that sometimes rules are rules. There are times in which you really want to follow the rules. And I'm an outside the lines thinker, right? But this is one of those rules that has to be sacrosanct, because you won't know. And it's hard. We had an Arizona lawyer. The lawyer was out to dinner with the client. And the client said to him, hey, I'm digging you, boo. I like you. Like the cut of your jib, whatever the expression was in your day. And I would like to take our relationship to a whole nother level. I'm paraphrasing. He says, I can't. Been to Sean's seminar. I know the rules, and I cannot, but I'm really I'm flattered. You're an attractive woman. We're both single. I'm very flattered, but I just can't. He gets back to his office next morning, writes her an email. Thank you so much for dinner. Really appreciate it. And by the way, so flattered by your offer. I really would like to. True story. He sends her a text of the rule, 1.8J. Says, I can't. Been to Sean's seminar. It's in the rules. 9 days later, he thinks to himself, you know what? We grown folks. We don't need no rules. We grown. So he contacts her and says, you know what? I think I reconsidered. Now, when they start their relationship, he does exactly what I would have done. All right, whenever I was in a relationship with a young woman, the first thing I would do is borrow $10,000 from her. Yep, that gives her some skin in the game. Now she is invested in the relationship, the future of the relationship. It matters to her because she got 10 grand on the line. And they have this relationship, and a little while later, she realizes this isn't worth 10 grand. I want my money back. And so she breaks up and wants her money back. She doesn't have, which is why he borrowed it in the first place. And now he has a number of ethical problems. I've never seen a situation where people lived happily ever after, right? Don't break the rule. The Hitchcock Award. We give this award every year. It's a surprise award. Remember Hitchcock? And you know about Hitchcock, the thing about Hitchcock was interesting is that he always had that twist at the end, that final ta-da, and people were shocked, right, at the ending. This is the situation here. We give it to you lawyers who are shocked to find out they have been punished or disbarred for things that they didn't know were serious or even problems at all. And they go, ta-da, the music plays, all of that, okay? Here's our first nominee in this category, The Quick and the Dead. I'm sorry. Here we have a lawyer who gets into trouble because of account irregularities that resulted from his transition from Quicken to QuickBooks. Yeah, he finally decides he's gonna, make the transition. He's gonna move on up to QuickBooks from Quicken. And in that transition, there are a couple category changes, et cetera, whatever, and it causes some minor shortfalls in his trust accounting. It does not cause him to, steal millions of dollars, but there are checks that get bounced and eventually, they get reconciled and paid back. And even for that, the lawyer received a private admonishment, okay? Which is, all right, come on, don't try not to do that again. And I don't even know how Sean found out about this because it's private. It wasn't the biggest, all right, punishment. But it does show that I'm sure the lawyer, when he thought about making this change, because everybody's saying, hey, you can't keep using the 1992 version of Quicken, thought that, he was going to have problems from changing software. But when you upgrade your software, things can happen and you will be held responsible. Time lapse. Here we have a lawyer who gets suspended for, Wisconsin lawyer, 60 days. Gets suspended for 60 days. Why? For practicing on a suspended license. That makes sense. Interestingly enough, he doesn't know he's practicing on a suspended license because his license has been suspended administratively. He missed the CLE deadline. His license becomes automatically suspended. Not having a current address on file, etc., which is also a violation, means that he doesn't know his license is suspended. He's out there doing his thing, right? And that is a separate violation. That's going to have you spend a little more time in the penalty box, right, for those things. And so often, it lapses, right? You just, people allow their licenses to lapse, not thinking about it. You got to always be up to date and, cross your I's and and dot your T. You got to cross and dot something, all right? Dot a Q if you have to, all right? But make sure you take care of those administrative details. Here's a movie, Both Sides of the Law. And here we have one of your people, West Virginia lawyer, licensed annulled for accepting fees from the parents while serving as guardian ad litem for minor children in a neglect and abuse matter. So in other words, right, he's accepting fees from the parents who are the adverse party in the sense that he's supposed to be representing the interests of the children, and that interest might be to get a heck away from these parents, but maybe not going to be the interest you're going to pursue if they write your checks. Now, I was surprised here, though, that the license was annulled, because that's a very serious penalty. Also, and I've been wanting to tease you people in West Virginia about this for a long time. I've been teasing you elsewhere. I'm going to teach it to your face. The annulment concept is cute. It's hilarious. What does an annulment mean? In marriage, it means that we were never technically married. We were young. I didn't really know them that well. It's a youthful indiscretion. Well, what are we arguing here, people? That what happened in Vegas, stayed in Vegas. We got drunk one weekend and gave them the license, but we're going to know that now. Somebody gonna send me a text and explain to me what the difference between that and this bar is. But you gonna stop pretending like it's a annulment. This is serious. And then lastly, alias Jesse James. And here we have a Louisiana lawyer who gets in trouble for not paying his court reporting service. You find it hard to believe, but this is a constant problem. Lawyers not paying the court reporter, lawyers not paying the chiropractors, and the copy services. And the interesting thing is, normally not paying your bills is not a bar offense. You don't pay your Visa bill. You don't pay your mortgage. I mean, you're gonna lose the house, but you won't be disciplined for that. But you will be for not paying people in the course of who provide services, right, in the course of practicing law. And we've literally had lawyers who've been disbarred, right, for this practice. This lawyer gets in trouble here because in addition to not paying the court reporting service, he tried to change his firm name to avoid a civil liability, right? So that was with, so-and-so LLC. We don't have that anymore. We're, O&so LLC. I'm going to encourage you to pay your court reporters, your chiropractors, your legal humorists when you bring them to your firm, or as soon as it's all over. You pay us because I'll report you. All right? Don't make me do it. And you'll see here that one of the problems we have is knowingly disobeying an obligation of the rules of tribunal. All right, to one of those obligations is to pay. All right, for the people who make it possible to be before the tribunal. If all the court reporters are out of business, it makes it very difficult for the rest of us to do what we do. That said, let's see which one you thought, because I didn't give you a chance to do the poll last time. Let's do it this time. The winner of the Hitchcock Award, all right? Person most likely what you're most likely to do. Is it the quick and the dead? What's the quick and the dead? Oh yeah, the quicken, right? To get in trouble because you change your accounting software or your network security, and then now everything gets out. Your emails are not going through. Time lapse, that you're going to simply let it lapse from a technical standpoint, not paying your fees in time, and then find yourself in bigger trouble. Both sides of the law, right? You're going to represent both sides, right? The person who's paying you having adverse interest to the person you're representing. And alias Jesse James, okay, the lawyer here who doesn't pay their fees and then tries to change their name to get out of it. And the votes are coming in. Quick and the dead is way out. Interesting. A lot of you are convincing me here. So take a look at what you came out with the polls. And 36% of you said you think it's going to be a technical problem, like changing your software, etc. I don't think that's what the bar chose, the Academy chose, but I think, no, they did. Whoa, you guys got it. I forgot the Academy did that. You're absolutely right. Quick and the dead. These technical problems. It's interesting because none of us, very few of us handle the technology on our side, but it never obviates or somehow gives you an exemption. So for instance, we had a case a couple of years ago of a lawyer. The people at the IT people at the firm set up very, very stringent spam filters. So stringent, in fact, that lawyers were not getting notices from the court. And as a result, they're missing deadlines, right? And all kinds of notices from the court because, that's going in junk mail. That's going right there with those, Nigerian emails, right? It turned out that, they could fire the IT person later, but that did not, excuse them, right, from all the things they missed. So your technology is important, all right? And even though you're not the person who's going to program your technology, right, you're not going to program your website if it has violations. Sometimes there are marketing violations. You hire a consultant and they put best lawyer ever, et cetera, as they would for any other person, but that violates our ethical obligations and you have to have it. Sometimes we have a problem. You have something on your website you need to change, but you can't find the person anymore. But you hired somebody, cheap, and and now you no longer, can find them right in some foreign country somewhere, and now you don't have the codes to go in and fix your website. That's going to be a personal problem. It's going to be your problem. So technology matters. And lastly, most creative tale. This is an interesting category always. I think it's going to be the last one we're going to get to today because the number of ways in which you can lie are amazing. This is John Lovitz from Saturday Night Live, and he would tell these ridiculous lies and say, yeah, that's the ticket. Here you're going to find out you can lie a lot more interestingly and not so, what was the word for it, assertively or inadvertently. You can, or inadvertently. You can, let's just go on. First nominee here, movie code name The Cleaner. Here is a New Jersey case of a lawyer gets suspended for 3 months for deleting crucial computer data, right? And the interesting here was the data that she had deleted was not about a client's culpability. It was actually data needed to verify her requests for legal fees. So case is over, she says, hey, court, this is the legal fees I should be entitled to statutorily and this, that, and the other. They said, well, do you have documentation for this? And she says, my computer hard drive ate it. It got, I don't know what happened, but somebody poured Coke all over this thing. It is my favorite brand of Coke, but I didn't do it. She'd used not only did she press delete about things, but she'd actually used a commercial software that allows you to delete, the ones and zeros, right? So you get it right off your hard drive. But there's always a record of you doing that. And so as a result, that was a problem. You can't substantiate your fees, but then you try to pretend, you try to erase the evidence to clean it. That's going to be a problem. This happens all the time. We have these, I've used this case before. We had a lawyer in Idaho a couple years ago, gets a call from the Alaska State Penitentiary. That's obviously not gonna be a good call. Let that go to voicemail, people. Let it go. He picks it up, it's his brother-in-law. Brother-in-law has been busted for drug trafficking up in Alaska. And brother-in-law says, hey, I need you to go to my apartment, get my phone and clean it, take and wipe my phone. The lawyer says, you're out of your mind. They recording this call. No. Hangs the phone and the wife says, who's that? She says, that's your crazy brother. He wants me to come delete the phone. She was like, you're not gonna let my baby brother go to jail, are you? You are, come on, you're not gonna that's my baby brother, that's my only baby brother. Anyway, he cleans the phone, now he is an accessory after the fact. Don't do that. Movie Like a Boss. Here we have a New York associate at a law firm. He gets suspended for 3 months. Why? For lying to partners in his firm to cover up a mistake. He makes a mistake. And rather than doing the right thing, saying, hey, I made a mistake, he tried to say, no, I didn't make a mistake, and fixes, and I'm gonna fix it. It's a filing that he's done with the court, that he wasn't supposed to do the filing. He prematurely, filed it. Honest mistake. But now he's trying to get it pulled back and, never existed. All of these things, all these lies he's telling to the client, to his partners, trying to avoid, saying the two most important words in the English language. I think, I shouldn't have to tell you this because I think you're smart people, you've been getting a lot of these polls. I think you know the two most important, and I'm gonna say sexiest words in the English language. And as you know, those two words are Sean Carter, and I guess the second is I'm sorry. I'm sorry works so well with people. If you say it before you get caught, okay? Once we catch you in a lie and then whatever, you no sorry then, all right? But I'm sorry, all right? Works well. It's amazing how well it can work. I've learned to weaponize an apology. If I make a mistake working for you, it's gonna cost you money. Because I'm gonna say I'm sorry so many times until you give me money just to shut up. I'm sorry, I am wrong, I am wrong, all right? You're gonna give me money to shut up, all right? And I'm being somewhat facetious, but not really. If you make a mistake and you say you're sorry, it changes everything. And the best thing about it is that so few people will do it that you will be a hero. Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. I'm at IHOP. I'm not bragging, it's where I was, having my breakfast. I have the breakfast and I walk out and go get in my car and drive home. I get to my driveway and I realize I never paid for the breakfast. I then get back in my car, drive to the IHOP. Now I expect that by the time I get there, SWAT is gonna be there, right? The local police department, I get out of the car. You can see I'm black, I got my hands up, don't shoot, right? I'm wrong. I go in, no SWAT, believe it or not, but I go in, I say, I'm sorry, I didn't pay the bill, here's the bill. And you know what? They treated me like I was a conquering hero. I got coupons to go back anytime I want, get all the Rudy Tooty fresh and fruity. I want. I'm a hero. They would literally start calling people from the back. He came back. He came back. I'm like, you thought I was gonna go to jail for $14.95? Really? people will respond amazingly if you admit your mistake first. If you make one, not you, but the bad people didn't come today. I promise it always works better, all right? If you, all right, don't try to hide it and just come on with it. Our next nominee here is the missing link. And here we have a Virginia lawyer received an admonition for citing a federal regulation that did not exist. Now, at the very least, that's kind of negligent, right? The thought here, though, was that he cited with such specificity, it wasn't necessarily negligence, it was just an attempt to pull a fast one. To get away with something. Basically, the thought is that no one would actually read the code itself. Why not? You just say what is in there. How could they possibly know other than looking it up themselves? And apparently the court actually has clerks who will do that. Who knew? I would encourage you not to make up entire laws, all right, out of whole cloth, but also not to attempt to do what some lawyers will do, which is to create the ransom brief. And what I mean by the ransom brief is every once in a while you'll find a lawyer who will not make things up out of whole cloth, but just make minor edits to a statute. And it's so easy to do it. I call it the ransom brief because grown folks know this, but the kids don't know this. Back in the 1970s, we kidnapped people a lot. Pretty much you get kidnapped 2 or 3 times a week. And when we write the ransom note out, didn't want people to recognize our handwriting. And we had handwriting experts. We used to write things with a pen, and it was weird. Just look it up. It was weird. And as a result, you would cut little newspaper strips out of the paper, so you could get T from this ad and H from that ad, and you'd spell out things in the newspaper strip so you wouldn't get caught with your ransom note. And you can do that with a legal brief too. You can just copy paste, certain parts of the code section, leave out things that don't matter. Put ellipses in to sort of avoid that. I'll give you an example, one way to do that. Take the not in the statute and just ellipses that out, right? So-and-so shall, just take that not part out. That changes the meaning quite a bit, doesn't it? Like 180 degrees, right? We'll get lawyers who will do that, right? We'll just attempt, and they'll say, oh, I messed up. It was an accident. We don't normally believe you. All right. If you're going to be careless, don't be careless with the not. And then playing with fire. Here we have a New York lawyer gets disbarred. Why? For collecting pension benefits while still working. He retires as a firefighter, decides he's going to be a lawyer, okay? And then becomes a lawyer. And decides, you know what, these firefighter people don't need to know what I'm doing. I'm making money now. And there's a maximum he can make out on outside employment before he has to start, giving some of these pension benefits back, or at least not collecting them until later, deferring them. And he blows through that and says, hey, none of their business. They hate success. Right? All up in my business. I'm just making money, handling my business. I'm paraphrasing the way he explained it, but I do know he explained that as a non-lawyer now. He got disbarred for that. And then lastly, we have Weekend at Bernie's. We have a lawyer here in Florida who fails to disclose to the opposing party in a wrongful death case, or will turn to be a wrongful death case, that the client was dead. As you know, in civil litigation matter, especially personal injury matter, a live client tends to be worth a little more than a dead client. Ongoing medical bills, expenses. I'm not saying a value judgment either way, but try to keep the client alive. It's worth more to you. And when the client dies, the lawyer says himself, well, there's no need to burden them with that information. What kind of relevance would that be? Let's just continue this mediation, get this settlement up in here. I'm paraphrasing the conversation. It turns out, believe it or not, who knew, you can't do that. One of the hard things, and lawyers tend to forget about this, is assuming that you do not disclose this information, you're still gonna have a hard time getting your client, I don't know, to execute the settlement agreement. Your dead men don't wear plaid or have very good penmanship. And dead people were very, very unreliable with executing documents. I don't know what is wrong with dead people, but they tend to mess it up quite a bit. And as a result, the lawyers will get caught not only for dishonesty with regard to, the entire not disclosing information, but also for forgery, which is a problem. It's a problem even in the 21st century. See, one of the things I think that makes people think they can get away with forgery is that none of us know how to write anymore. I don't know if any of you have tried to do this recently. I have a pen here. I'm going to encourage you to try to write something. I don't know, your name, your signature. When I was a young man, I had a great signature. I had a great signature because I practiced it a lot, because I thought I was going to be famous. You don't think I saw this in my future, do you? I was going to be somebody, not this. And so I used to practice my signature. But over the last 30 years ago, I stopped practicing it as much as I used to. And I've stopped having to write like ever. And as a matter of fact, I no longer have a signature now. I have to use an X. I have no idea how to write my name, Sean Carter. I know the S has a loop at the top, but after that, I'm stuck. I signed my kid out of daycare the other day, and I just wrote in print, Dad, because I have no idea how to spell my name and certainly how to make it legible. So if someone wanted to copy my signature, all you literally have to do is start scribbling. All right, start from the left, start from the right. It'll look like my signature every time. Nobody is going to want you to have a penmanship degree. And so the idea of forging someone's signature seems a little easier these days. And I'm seeing increasingly lawyers thinking that a signature is just a formality. Doesn't really matter. The lawyer will think, you know what, you're not there. We don't have a person there. I've literally heard this before. Go in that room and find Joe's signature. And someone goes in and they, rumble around a little bit. You can hear furniture tipping over. They go, oh, I found the signature. It's underneath the coffee table. I'm going to tell you that signatures matter a lot. Even though they're not legible and even though we think they're interchangeable, they're really not. What you attest when you write a signature out, yours or someone else's, is that not only is what I'm telling you true, but that I will pay whatever consequences there isn't. If one, I'm not this person, or two, what I've just scribbled my name under is not true. One of the biggest forms of quote unquote dishonesty of lawyers who are punished for acts of dishonesty and misrepresentation involve signatures. Given carelessly or not, it is extremely important that when you sign your name, you're basically saying, I'm signing my law degree here. If I am not right, then take all my house and car and kids. Actually, not the kids. They won't take the kids because you would do that on purpose, all right? But other than that, I'm being very, very serious and somewhat facetious. Now, that being said, we're at the end of this 3-hour seminar. I want to see here, if you have questions, I want to encourage you to not really ask them. I find your questions personally insulting, all right? I do this professionally. If I give a good speech, there are no questions. Dr. King gave a speech once, great speech. I have a dream speech. 2 or 3 of you have heard it, remember? Free at last, thank God Almighty, free at last. Any questions? Remember that part? No.
Sean, don't be insulted. There are no questions.
Thank you. See, no questions because I did it right. I knew I was Dr. King. So that being said, everybody, thank you so much for having me. I hope we do this again and actually in real life, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Sean. For those of you who are on the webinar, remember you will get an email. It's 3 hours in ethics. Please be sure to accept it. Our next bi-monthly webinar will be July 13th. That is a webinar on law office management worth 3 hours of credit. And watch the Bar Blast for additional information on some somewhat COVID-related webinars we are trying to set up. Again, Sean Carter, thank you so much for your time. Bye, everyone.